Silence drapes the red world of Mars like an ancient blanket. The planet lies still under a thin, fragile sky. No wind, no sound, only the soft glow of dust, catching the faint light of a distant sun. For countless ages, the heavens above Mars have been unchanged, a sea of stars frozen in perfect stillness. But tonight, that silence breaks. At first, it was nothing more than a glimmer, a single spark moving against the steady pattern of the constellations. A flicker that should not be there. Far above the planet, the ExoMars trace gas orbiter drifts through darkness. Its cameras usually turn downward to study the Martian surface. Yet tonight those same eyes turn outward, toward a visitor not born of this world. They call it 3I Atlas, an interstellar object passing through our solar system, a frozen traveler from another star. The first images appear faint, a ghostly blur in the data stream, barely visible yet undeniably real. The light comes from something small, only a kilometer across, but shining with a strange green glow. It shouldn't be glowing at all. Where 3I Atlas moves, the sunlight is weak, the temperature far below freezing. No heat, no reason for ice to melt. And yet, the comet breathes. Streams of vapor burst from its core, forming a shimmering halo of gas and dust. Scientists stare at the images in disbelief. The comet is leaking water where no water should exist. It is breaking the rules of every model they know. The Mars Express orbiter joins the watch, its cameras straining to capture the faint blur of light millions of kilometers away. The results are dim, imperfect, but within the blur, a form emerges, the soft outline of a glowing coma. From the cold surface of Mars, that light would appear like a wandering emerald star, hovering in the stillness of the Martian night, small, distant, yet unmistakably alive. The orbiters keep watching. Each exposure lasts longer than the last, the data traveling for minutes through the void before reaching Earth. Pixel by pixel, a portrait forms. A comet that isn't quite a comet, a traveler that seems to defy the nature of space itself. Nick Thomas, the investigator for the Cassis camera, notes that the target is 10,000 times fainter than their usual sights, and yet, somehow, it shines through. The scientists speak quietly in the control room, the soft hum of machines the only sound between them. On their screens glows a mystery, a fragment of another world, suspended between Mars and the Sun. For billions of years, Mars has been a silent witness, watching meteors fall and dust storms fade. But tonight it sees something no planet in our system has ever seen before. A visitor from the stars, glowing where no warmth should reach. The green light grows stronger, a thin tail unfurling behind it, stretching for tens of thousands of kilometers. The data shows faint traces of water vapor and strange organic compounds, the fingerprints of creation itself. In that moment, one thought passes quietly among the scientists. What if this isn't just a comet? What if this is the dust of other worlds, carried across interstellar space, seeding new beginnings wherever it travels? The images continue to flow in, each one clearer, stranger, more alive than the last. Mars turns slowly beneath it, its deserts reflecting faint glimmers of green. Something foreign has entered the frame, something powerful, ancient, and unexplained. No one speaks, but every mind in that room feels the same quiet realization. Mars is no longer alone in its sky. For a few silent hours, a world that has slept for billions of years witnesses an interstellar traveler passing by. A light born beneath another sun, now reflected in the calm red dust of our own. And somewhere, deep in that endless night, the question lingers: what exactly is lighting up the Martian sky? Beyond the thin, coppery haze of Mars's atmosphere, the universe stretched outward, vast, silent, and impossibly black. Stars glimmered faintly, distant pinpricks of light that had already died thousands, perhaps millions of years ago. In that darkness, a lone traveler traced a path across the void, moving silently, inexorably, untouched by the pull of any familiar sun. This was 3I Atlas, an object that had crossed the gulf between stars, carrying with it stories from a place no human had ever known. Its trajectory was nearly imperceptible at first. Against the backdrop of infinite black, it appeared as a faint smudge, a shadow in motion. But telescopes across Earth and Mars began to detect it, marking its presence with increasing clarity. There was something extraordinary about its course. It was not bound to the sun, not tethered to the gentle rhythm of our solar system. It moved as though it had its own secret, one written in the language of interstellar space. Billions of years ago, 3I Atlas had been born in a star system far from our own. Perhaps it had formed near a young sun, amidst swirling clouds of gas and dust, its surface kissed by particles heavier than hydrogen, perhaps enriched with the chemistry that would eventually seed planets. Yet long before any planet in our solar system had coalesced, some violent cosmic event, a gravitational encounter, a stellar explosion, or the chaotic dance of young planets, had flung it outward. It became a wanderer, cast into the void, solitary and silent, journeying across light years with no eyes to see, no ears to hear. Interstellar comets are incredibly rare. Before 3I Atlas, humanity had identified only 2 such visitors. ʻOumuamua, a peculiar elongated body that flashed mysteriously past the sun, and 2I Borisov, a more typical icy comet that revealed hints of alien chemistry. And now here was 3I Atlas, the third known messenger from a distant stellar cradle, slipping through our solar system as if drawn by curiosity, or perhaps fate. Its existence alone challenged assumptions, whispering that the cosmos was far more connected and far stranger than once imagined. As 3I Atlas approached the inner reaches of the solar system, its presence was illuminated not by light of its own making, but by the sun's radiation glancing off its icy surface. Instruments recorded subtle emissions, water vapor, dust, and molecular fragments, all evidence of a complex chemical heritage, untouched by the warmth of any nearby sun for billions of years. It was as though a piece of another world, frozen in time, had chosen to wander across the galaxy and present itself to us momentarily, before continuing into the void. The comet's trajectory brought it closer to Mars, and with it, an extraordinary spectacle unfolded. From orbit, cameras captured a sudden, subtle glow in the Martian sky, a shimmer of light against the darkening horizon. Scientists quickly realized this was no ordinary meteor or comet interaction. 3I Atlas was shedding material, leaving trails of gas and dust that caught the dim sunlight and refracted it across the thin Martian atmosphere. For a fleeting moment, the sky seemed to pulse with a quiet energy, a delicate illumination that hinted at processes older than Earth itself. The music of the cosmos, if such a thing could be heard, would have been soft and hypnotic here. There was a rhythm to its movement, a slow, deliberate arc across the sky. Dust particles tumbled off its surface like ancient whispers, scattering across millions of kilometers, some destined to fall toward the Martian surface, others to drift onward into the emptiness. There was elegance in its motion, a reminder that even the coldest, loneliest objects in space could hold a kind of poetic grace. Scientists observed the comet carefully, piecing together its composition from subtle spectroscopic signatures. Water, yes, but also traces of carbon compounds and silicates, hinting at a distant planetary nursery long vanished. Each discovery sparked a quiet reverence. Here was an object that had seen the birth of stars, the formation of planets, and perhaps the earliest chemical stirrings that might give rise to life. And yet it carried no intention, no consciousness. Its journey was purely mechanical, guided by gravity and chance. Yet it conveyed a story greater than itself, a narrative that stretched across eons. Despite the calm exterior, the data puzzled astronomers. The quantity of material 3I Atlas was shedding seemed almost excessive, far beyond what traditional models of cometary behavior would predict at its distance from the sun. This was an object that had survived the interstellar void intact, only to reveal something unexpected in the light of a nearby star. It was as if the cosmos had prepared a surprise, a message for those patient enough to notice. And there was something humbling about witnessing this. One could imagine standing on the surface of Mars, gazing up at a sky streaked with the pale glow of an alien visitor. The mind stretches to comprehend distances, velocities, and timescales that dwarf human experience. To see a fragment of another star system, a frozen relic that had drifted for billions of years, brush past our celestial neighborhood, is to confront the scale of the universe and the minuteness of oneself. Yet in that confrontation lies wonder, a quiet acknowledgement of our place in a vast, mysterious cosmos. 3i Atlas reminded scientists and dreamers alike that the universe is far from static. It is a place of motion, of surprise, and of stories unfolding over scales that can barely be imagined. Each photon that departed its surface carried a whisper of its history. Each fragment of ice, a fragment of its home system. For a moment, it connected the distant past to the present, and Earth and Mars, and the human observers watching from afar became part of that interstellar conversation. And then, as silently as it had arrived, 3i Atlas continued on its journey, slipping past Mars and heading deeper into the solar system. Its glow faded from the sky, leaving behind only traces of its presence in the instruments of orbiters and telescopes. Yet even as it disappeared from view, its impact lingered, a reminder that the universe is filled with travelers, messengers, and mysteries. Each passing object carries knowledge that predates civilizations, that has witnessed the dance of stars, and that hints at the boundless possibilities beyond the horizons we can see. In the quiet aftermath, one might wonder, what other travelers wander the galactic seas unseen, bearing secrets from distant suns? And as humans turn their eyes skyward, charting paths of comets, asteroids, and planets, the cosmos seems to respond with subtle, almost imperceptible gestures. 3i Atlas, a silent emissary from another world, had lit up the Martian sky. And for those watching, it was more than a fleeting spectacle. It was an invitation to wonder, a gentle nudge to consider the immensity, the mystery, and the quiet beauty of a universe that never stops moving, never stops speaking, and never stops astonishing. In the endless expanse beyond Mars, the comet's journey slowed only in our perception. To the instruments and the eyes tracing it from afar, 3i Atlas moved with inexorable precision, a traveler obeying laws of motion older than our sun. And yet, the closer scientists looked, the less familiar it seemed. It did not conform to the neat patterns established by centuries of cometary study. It carried the hallmarks of ice and rock, yes, yet in proportions and behavior that defied expectation. A comet is, by conventional definition, a body of ice, dust, and rock, born in the frigid outskirts of a star system. Heated by the sun's light, it exhales gas, creating a glowing coma and a tail that stretches millions of kilometers across space. We have watched countless comets in our solar system, each one predictable in its rhythms, its emissions, its subtle dance with gravity and solar radiation. But 3i Atlas was not like these. Its speed, its energy, its composition, all hinted at an origin untethered to the familiar architecture of our own sun. Its velocity was the first anomaly. Ordinary comets, even the most eccentric ones, follow the gentle arcs dictated by the sun's gravity. 3i Atlas, in contrast, arrived almost unbound, hurtling past Mars at tens of kilometers per second, far faster than anything the solar system typically produces. Its trajectory suggested no plan, no orbit, no home to return to. It had come from somewhere else entirely, a place billions of kilometers distant, and it carried the imprint of that journey in its motion. The composition of the comet puzzled scientists further. Instruments detected water, yes, but also unusual ratios of carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen isotopes. Subtle deviations that suggested a chemistry foreign to the solar system. Trace metals shimmered faintly under the observation of spectrometers, revealing a story of a star system that had evolved differently, perhaps with temperatures, pressures, or elemental distributions we cannot yet imagine. It was as if the comet had been forged in a cosmic laboratory alien to our own, a relic of a distant celestial neighborhood that had long vanished. Even more confounding was the manner in which 3i Atlas shed material. Normally, a comet approaching the inner solar system exhibits predictable outgassing, primarily of water, carbon monoxide, and dust. Yet this object expelled its material in bursts and streams, inconsistent with the gradual sublimation we might expect. Instruments aboard orbiters and telescopes recorded sudden, uneven plumes, patterns that seemed almost deliberate, almost alive in their irregularity. No model could fully account for these behaviors, and yet each observation was meticulously documented, each anomaly catalogued as if the universe itself were presenting a quiet challenge to human understanding. The physics governing its journey are unyielding, immutable. Yet 3I Atlas seemed to test them, not by breaking the laws themselves, but by revealing their limitations in our comprehension. Newtonian mechanics, Keplerian motion, the thermodynamics of ice under solar irradiation. All these frameworks describe the cosmos with remarkable precision. And yet, this comet quietly undermined our assumptions, reminding us that certainty is a delicate companion when confronted with the vast unknown. To understand an interstellar comet, one must also understand what makes it different from a normal comet. Ordinary comets are children of their star, born in the Kuiper belt or the Oort cloud, shaped by the gravitational contours of their sun. 3I Atlas, in contrast, had never been tethered. It had wandered between stars, exposed to the near absolute zero of interstellar space, perhaps traveling for millions of years without a single close encounter with heat or light. Its very presence in our solar system was an anomaly, a messenger from a realm beyond the familiar, carrying secrets encoded in ice and rock. Yet in that anomaly lay fascination. For every peculiar measurement, for every burst of material that defied explanation, there was an opportunity to glimpse the diversity of the galaxy. What if these comets were fragments of planets that never formed, or remnants of star systems that had long since collapsed? Could they carry organic compounds, or even the chemical seeds of life, across the interstellar void? Each new spectroscopic reading opened doors to questions both scientific and philosophical, bridging empirical observation with the quiet wonder of imagination. The comet's speed, its composition, and its behavior are all bound by cosmic laws. And yet, the human mind finds itself struggling to reconcile what is observed with what is expected. There is a rhythm to understanding the universe, a cadence set by observation, modeling, and repeated experimentation. 3I Atlas disrupts that rhythm, a reminder that while the cosmos is consistent in its principles, it is not predictable in its manifestations. In this tension between certainty and surprise lies the hypnotic allure of interstellar exploration. Imagine standing beneath the Martian sky as it catches the comet's tail, faintly glowing against the dusk. The dust and vapor trailing behind it glint like frost in a distant morning, scattered across a void measured in millions of kilometers. Even the smallest grains carry a story of formation, of isolation, of eons spent drifting through darkness unvisited by any sun. There is a strange intimacy in this, the notion that something so remote, so ancient, could intersect with a human observer's instruments even for a brief moment. And yet, as much as 3I Atlas confounded scientists, it also illuminated possibilities. Its irregular outgassing suggested that the chemistry of other star systems could be far more varied than previously imagined. Its velocity and trajectory implied that interstellar objects might be far more common than the handful we have observed. Every anomaly, every deviation from expectation, was not a failure of science, but an invitation to look closer, to measure more precisely, and to imagine more boldly. In the silence of space, 3I Atlas continued its solitary voyage. Its icy surface reflected sunlight with a faint shimmer, an almost imperceptible pulse that marked its movement through the void. The comet carried no intention, no consciousness, yet its journey resonated with significance. It was a bridge between worlds, a frozen fragment of a star system that might never be known, yet had chosen, or been cast, into our path. It was a reminder that the universe is vast, its history unfathomable, and its surprises unending. And as instruments tracked its passage, recording spectra, measuring velocities, and mapping plumes of dust and gas, one truth became increasingly clear. The cosmos is not static, and its inhabitants, from the tiniest grains of interstellar ice to the planets and moons that orbit distant stars, are engaged in a dance of motion and change that transcends human timescales. 3I Atlas was merely one note in that symphony, yet its song was unmistakable. a quiet, defiant testament to the boundless diversity of the universe, and a call to those who watch to embrace the wonder of what lies beyond the familiar. As it disappeared toward the outer reaches of the solar system, the comet left a trail of questions in its wake. Questions of chemistry, of formation, of history, and of the limits of human knowledge. 3I Atlas was more than a visitor. It was a challenge, a reminder that even in a universe governed by laws and constants, the unexpected is inevitable. And in that inevitability, there is beauty, and there is the quiet thrill of discovery, waiting for those patient enough to follow the path of a traveler from beyond the sun. High above the rust-red plains of Mars, in the cold, silent expanse of orbit, machines stirred with purpose. The ExoMars trace gas orbiter, a delicate sentinel of Martian chemistry, pivoted slowly, its instruments turning from familiar scans of methane and atmospheric trace gases toward the unknown. Nearby, Mars Express, older yet no less precise, adjusted its sensors, trained not on rocks or clouds, but on a distant, intruding comet hurtling through the solar system. For these spacecraft, designed to study the quiet intricacies of a planet, this was a sudden and profound change in mission. Imagine the precision involved. Each orbit, each rotation, each maneuver must account for gravitational tugs, the sun's radiation pressure, and the faint pull of Mars itself. Now layer onto this the challenge of tracking an object moving faster than anything native to the solar system. A comet whose path is calculated not in gentle curves, but in sharp interstellar arcs. Every adjustment is a test of engineering, a balancing act between what the instruments were built to do and what the universe demands they attempt. As 3I Atlas drew closer, the spacecraft began recording streams of data at rates and in formats they were never fully optimized for. Cameras meant to capture dust storms instead caught streaks of alien ice and dust. Spectrometers tuned to measure atmospheric gases on Mars now detected the faint chemical fingerprints of a traveler from another star system. Unusual isotopic ratios, unexpected molecular structures, and water signatures far beyond what any Martian observer might anticipate. There is an elegance to this moment, quiet yet profound. Machines, silent and mechanical, trained their eyes skyward, transforming from instruments of routine study into observers of a cosmic event. The tension is subtle but palpable, between the constraints of design and the vastness of the unknown. Engineers watch from Earth as telemetry streams back, interpreting signals, recalculating orbits, adjusting angles. The spacecraft are extensions of human curiosity, yet they act independently in the vacuum of space, bridging the gulf between human limitation and cosmic scale. The Martian sky itself, though thin and transparent compared to Earth, seems to resonate with anticipation. From the orbiter's perspective, the comet's path is a faint glowing thread weaving across a tapestry of stars. Its tail fans slowly in the solar wind, a delicate plume of interstellar material brushing past Mars's orbit. The instruments record this plume in exquisite detail, capturing light reflected, absorbed, and emitted, a symphony of data that tells a story billions of years in the making. Scientists marvel at how well these spacecraft adapt. ExoMars, designed to sniff trace gases in the Martian atmosphere, is suddenly scanning the universe beyond, measuring not only the comet's composition, but also its velocity, trajectory, and energy. Mars Express, though launched decades earlier, proves resilient, its aging instruments performing far beyond their original scope. There is a sense that the universe has nudged these machines built for the narrow scope of planetary science into roles they were never meant to play, and that in doing so they reveal something profound about the adaptability of human ingenuity. Every image transmitted is a lesson in both scale and perspective. The comet's bright head, its coma glinting with sunlight, contrasts starkly against the deep black behind it. Dust and ice particles drift outward, forming ephemeral clouds that bend and shimmer as they interact with the solar wind. The spacecraft record subtle changes, faint bursts of material, patterns that appear random, but hint at a hidden order. A rhythm dictated by physics, chemistry, and timescales too vast for human perception. There is also a quiet tension in the team on Earth, The data is precious, the time window short. These machines were never designed to chase a comet moving from beyond the sun. Their fuel is finite, their instruments delicate. Yet in this challenge lies excitement, the thrill of observing something no human-made device has tracked before. The calculations are exacting, the alignments precise. A single error could mean missing the most fleeting traces of a visitor whose journey has spanned light years. And yet, amidst this technical orchestration, there is poetry. A spacecraft, built of metal and circuits, turning its sensors skyward, becomes a proxy for humanity's gaze. It is our curiosity projected into orbit, bridging the distance between a dusty, silent world and an object that has traversed the void of interstellar space. The comet does not acknowledge the observation. It does not slow or alter its path. It moves according to the ancient laws of gravity and momentum, yet in that indifference it communicates more than any signal ever could. The vastness of the cosmos, the fragility of our perspective, and the opportunity to witness something profoundly alien. Each instrument captures a different dimension of the encounter. Cameras record brightness and shape. Spectrometers dissect the chemical composition. Magnetometers sense interactions with solar winds. Together, they weave a multi-dimensional picture, not only of the comet but of the encounter itself. A meeting of worlds, human and cosmic, mediated by precision engineering and the unyielding logic of science. The orbital choreography is meticulous. Every adjustment in orientation or timing is calculated in advance, accounting for orbital mechanics, Martian gravity, and the comet's projected motion. These maneuvers are delicate, almost imperceptible, yet essential. A tilt of a camera by a fraction of a degree, a recalibration of a sensor's sensitivity, could reveal hidden details. Streaks of vapor, unexpected chemical signatures, or the faint halo of dust that hints at a comet's internal structure. And yet, despite all the precision, the encounter retains an element of mystery. The comet is not fully knowable. It is both data and enigma, a body that conforms to physics, yet resists complete understanding. It challenges assumptions, not by breaking the laws of motion or thermodynamics, but by existing at the edges of what we have observed, at the limits of our instruments and comprehension. Each signal from the orbiters is a whisper, a hint, a fragment of a story that began long before humans existed and will continue long after we are gone. Through it all, Mars watches quietly, a red sentinel beneath the orbiting machines. Its dusty plains, frozen poles, and thin atmosphere seem almost unaware, yet they frame this cosmic spectacle with stark beauty. The comet's light, faint but persistent, illuminates the Martian night, a subtle glow that hints at worlds beyond our own. The spacecraft, the comet, the planet, and the human minds interpreting the data are linked in a delicate chain, a chain that stretches across space, time, and imagination. And when the comet finally moves beyond Mars's sphere of observation, the orbiters return to their standard routines, yet they are forever changed. They have glimpsed a visitor from another star, an object that defies expectation, and they have proven that even machines designed for limitations can rise to the challenge of curiosity. The encounter leaves questions, not answers. Questions of origin, chemistry, and motion, and of the unseen travelers that silently pass through our cosmic neighborhood. In that quiet aftermath, one senses the lesson of the orbiter's vigilance, that the universe is vast, that discovery often requires adaptation, and that even instruments built for the known can illuminate the unknown. Mars, its sky now calm again, has turned its eyes outward, showing that exploration is not limited to human presence alone. The planet, its satellites, and the comet are locked in a silent dialogue, and though the words are unspoken, the story they tell is timeless. That even in the cold void of space, curiosity can bridge worlds. And then, finally, the image appeared. On screens thousands of kilometers away, a faint, ghostly blur against the unbroken black of space. At first, it seemed almost nothing. A tiny pinprick of light, dwarfed by the void that surrounded it. But this small speck was extraordinary. That dim glow, barely distinguishable from cosmic background noise, was 3I Atlas, 30 million kilometers from Mars, drifting silently through the solar system. The image lingered, unremarkable at first glance, yet heavy with implication. It was a comet, yes, but also so much more. A traveler from another star, a relic from a distant solar system, carrying with it secrets and stories older than our sun. Its light, traveling across unimaginable distances, had finally reached human instruments, and in that faint shimmer, billions of years of cosmic history were encoded. The screen filled with a quiet tension. Nothing in its shape immediately gave it away. Unlike the dramatic comets of our textbooks with long, luminous tails and bright heads, this was subtle, almost shy. The tail stretched faintly behind it, a whisper of dust and gas tracing its path, barely visible against the infinite black. The faint halo surrounding its icy core seemed almost ethereal, a suggestion of substance rather than the substance itself. Instruments measured and remeasured the blur, translating faint photons into data, confirming what the eyes could barely perceive. Each frame, each pixel carried information about its composition, its velocity, and its trajectory. And yet, there was something deeply human about staring at that tiny speck. A mix of wonder, disbelief, and an almost spiritual acknowledgement of the vastness of the universe. One could imagine standing on the surface of Mars, looking through a telescope, and catching sight of that pale light. It would seem impossibly small, a solitary candle in a cathedral of darkness. And yet that single point of illumination was extraordinary. It was a comet from beyond the sun, moving with precision across the solar system, indifferent to our gaze, yet somehow visible, somehow present. The music accompanying the observation faded almost entirely, leaving silence punctuated only by the soft hum of instruments and the distant echoes of telemetry. In that quiet, the weight of the moment became clear. Scientists and observers alike found themselves in reverent stillness, marveling not at grand spectacle but at subtlety, at how something so small could matter so profoundly. Something so small, carrying the weight of another world. The thought whispered itself across minds and screens. The sentence hung in the air, not spoken aloud, yet resonating in the silence of control rooms and observatories. The comet Io's tiny glow was not just an object of science. It was a bridge to another solar system, a reminder that even the smallest light can carry immense history and significance. Time seemed to stretch as the image was magnified, pixel by pixel. Dust particles reflecting sunlight, faint emissions of gas, the subtle curvature of a coma, each revealed in slow, deliberate detail. The further one looked, the more apparent it became that this was not a static object. Even in its smallness, 3I Atlas was alive with motion, a miniature universe of processes unfolding invisibly to the naked eye. Observers were struck by perspective. 30 million kilometers may seem vast, yet in cosmic terms it is the merest whisper. And still, within that distance, the comet carried material forged in alien conditions, untouched by our sun until this brief encounter. It was a messenger, yes, but also a symbol that the universe is immense, yet interconnected, and that even the tiniest point of light can hold the essence of a distant world. The halo of faint white surrounding the comet seemed almost spiritual, as if the universe itself had chosen this moment to show humanity a fragment of its vastness. Instruments traced the subtle brightness across frames, revealing asymmetries in outgassing, tiny jets of ice and dust. The comet's surface slowly shedding traces of its interstellar journey. Each anomaly was a clue, each fluctuation a whisper from a world never seen, never touched, yet momentarily close enough to feel. The scene lingered. The faint white speck seemed to hover in the screen's center, timeless and patient. The silence allowed the imagination to fill in the rest, the icy landscapes it had seen in a distant system, the birth and death of alien stars, and the endless void it had traversed for millions of years. A journey spanning light years had condensed into a single faint point of light, visible from instruments orbiting Mars. It was a reminder of scale, fragility, and wonder. That something so small could endure so much, carry so much history, and yet remain indifferent to observation. That is the paradox that enthralled scientists and dreamers alike. the faint glow of 3I Atlas became more than a data point. It became a meditation on endurance, on the quiet persistence of the cosmos, and on humanity's relentless gaze. And then, as quickly as attention could sharpen, the comet moved slightly, shifting its faint halo, a motion almost imperceptible in real time, but immense in context. Its journey continued, carrying it ever onward, leaving behind only whispers of light and traces of gas. Yet the image remained etched in memory, a testament to the extraordinary hidden in the unassuming, the monumental contained within a tiny speck against infinite darkness. In that lingering gaze, one could almost feel the universe exhale. The faint white speck, small and distant, had illuminated more than Mars's sky. It had illuminated imagination, curiosity, and awe. And though its light was faint, its story was unmistakable. A reminder that even the tiniest fragment of the cosmos can carry the weight of worlds, the echo of time, and the quiet mystery of the infinite. At first, the numbers were almost dismissed. Tiny deviations in brightness, slight inconsistencies in expected measurements, nothing that should have raised alarms. Yet as the datasets accumulated, a quiet, unsettling pattern began to emerge. 3I Atlas was brighter than it had any right to be. Its coma, the glowing envelope of gas and dust surrounding the icy nucleus, shimmered with a radiance far beyond expectation, far beyond what any comet of its distance should display. In ordinary circumstances, comets far from the sun are muted in their activity. Icy cores remain dormant, shedding only the faintest wisps of gas under the weak touch of sunlight. The farther from the star, the quieter their glow, the more subdued their tails. But here was 3I Atlas, billions of kilometers from warmth, radiating light and energy as if basking near a sun it had not yet approached. Scientists scrutinized every image, every spectral reading. Instruments aboard orbiters and ground-based telescopes captured the intensity of the comet's glow. The data painted a portrait of a body releasing water vapor at a rate that seemed impossible for its position in the solar system. Water, vast quantities of it, like a hidden fountain, gushing quietly but relentlessly, its jets illuminating the surrounding coma. The numbers were staggering. Models suggested that an object of this size, this distance, should be inert, dark, and unremarkable. Yet 3I Atlas defied these models entirely. The coma's luminosity suggested an energy source that was not apparent, a mechanism that challenged every assumption about how comets behave in the cold depths of space. Something was happening here that had no precedent in human observation. The glow of the coma was more than a curiosity, it was a clue. Spectrometers confirmed that the light was not artificial, not the result of reflection alone. It was caused by massive amounts of water vapor being expelled from the comet's surface, interacting with sunlight, creating a halo of spectral emissions that was brighter than any comet should be, given its distance from the sun. The sheer volume of material being released was astonishing, far beyond what conventional models of cometary physics could account for. It was a quiet shock. There were no alarms, no urgent sirens. The discovery was met with careful verification, repeated measurements, and meticulous calculation. Yet beneath the calm of scientific protocol, a subtle tension built. Something in the universe was behaving in ways we did not yet understand. Something that should have been predictable was not. Something familiar, a comet, a frozen fragment of ice and rock, had become extraordinary. Scientists began to describe the phenomenon in hushed tones. Words like impossible and unprecedented surfaced cautiously, layered with the usual caveats of verification. Instruments were checked, calculations redone, measurements repeated. And still, the comet's behavior persisted. Water vapor streamed from its icy surface in vast quantities, forming a bright, dense coma that reflected light across millions of kilometers. It was, in effect, a beacon in the darkness, glowing far more than any comet should have given the weak sunlight reaching it. The mechanics of the release were equally puzzling. Jets of vapor erupted irregularly, unevenly, as if the comet's surface was cracking and exhaling with unpredictable timing. Dust grains floated outward, carried by the energy of sublimation, scattering faint light across the edges of the coma. Each jet, each plume seemed to defy the quiet, cold environment that surrounded it. There was no heat source close enough to justify the intensity, and yet the physics of sublimation alone could not explain the volume or persistence. In control rooms across Earth, scientists sat in stillness, staring at the data. The anomaly was subtle but undeniable, an object behaving in ways that no one expected, revealing that the rules of distance, light, and heat might have exceptions when dealing with interstellar wanderers. The comet's luminosity was not just higher than expected. It was an active contradiction of expectation itself, a small, glowing rebellion against predictability. Visualizations began to emerge on screens. The faint white speck captured earlier transformed into a luminous halo, almost pulsating with energy as instruments processed the streams of water vapor and dust. Animations traced the comet's motion, jets flaring at unexpected angles, tails bending subtly under solar wind. Even at this scale, the magnitude of its activity was hard to fathom. The light that shouldn't exist now glowed clearly, insistently, a quiet message from a traveler billions of years old. And then, the realization settled in. The comet was not simply passing by, unnoticed. Its behavior was actively engaging with its environment, leaving evidence of energy release in the interplanetary medium. Every photon reflected, every molecule expelled, told a story of survival across interstellar distances, a story of ice and rock that had endured billions of years, only to awaken unexpectedly in a solar system not its own. The calm of observation contrasted sharply with the magnitude of the discovery. There were no explosions, no sudden flashes, no dramatic collisions. The drama was subtle, almost imperceptible, a tiny body in space glowing with an intensity far beyond expectation, defying predictions and quietly compelling human minds to reconsider what is possible. And yet, amid the data, the glow, and the meticulous calculations, there was room for reflection. Here was something small, isolated, and ancient, yet it had an outsized presence. It was a comet, yes, but also a messenger of sorts, carrying information about chemistry, physics, and processes that may be alien to our sun, our planets, and even our understanding. It illuminated not only the void around Mars, but also the limits of what we thought we knew about comets, interstellar travel, and the persistence of matter across unimaginable distances. The light that shouldn't be there continued to shine. It marked the beginning of a new chapter in human observation, a moment when science, curiosity, and cosmic mystery converged. And as instruments recorded each new plume of vapor, each subtle flare in the coma, a quiet awe settled over the observers. It was not fear or panic, but a deeper, more profound astonishment that the universe could still surprise, could still challenge, could still whisper secrets in a faint, glowing envelope surrounding an object that had traveled across the stars. And for a moment the world paused to consider this. A small comet, billions of years old, billions of kilometers away, glowing more brightly than it should, revealing a truth both simple and unfathomable. That light, impossible by every expectation, was real. And it was calling attention to the mysteries that lie just beyond our comprehension, waiting silently in the depths of space. The comet was faint, almost impossibly faint. Against the backdrop of Mars, the pale glow of 3I Atlas was like a single candle in the glare of a stadium floodlight. The planet itself shone with an intensity millions of times greater, its dusty surface reflecting sunlight in brilliant reds and oranges, its polar caps gleaming like distant mirrors. And yet in the midst of this overpowering brightness, instruments aboard the orbiters captured the comet, a subtle thread of light barely perceptible to the human eye. The Cass's camera on the ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter, designed primarily for geological mapping, suddenly became an interstellar observer. Its lenses, tuned to capture the texture of Martian rocks and the patterns of dust storms, recorded a faint speck millions of kilometers away. It was 10,000 times dimmer than the surrounding planet, yet there it was, unmistakably present, a point of light almost lost in the overwhelming glow of its environment, yet persistent, enduring, and significant. There is a certain irony to this moment. Humanity's instruments, engineered for the study of one planet, its soil, its atmosphere, its weather. We're suddenly glimpsing an entirely alien world. A comet that had drifted across the gulf of interstellar space, a traveler from another star system, was captured inadvertently while the orbiter followed its original Martian mission. The universe had orchestrated a quiet collision of purpose and chance, allowing a machine built for local exploration to witness the extraordinary beyond. Capturing something so faint required precision bordering on the miraculous. Every pixel of the image mattered. The spacecraft's orientation had to be exact. Even the slightest misalignment could mean losing the faint comet in the overwhelming brilliance of the Martian surface. Exposure times had to balance the need to detect the subtle glow with the necessity of avoiding overexposure from Mars itself. A fraction too long, and the planet's light would overwhelm the frame. A fraction too short, and the comet would vanish entirely. And yet, against all odds, Cassie succeeded. Each photon from 3I Atlas was collected, recorded, and translated into data that revealed not just its presence, but its form, its motion, and hints of its composition. The faint streak, barely distinguishable from the cosmic background, became a story, a bridge between two worlds, the planet below and the interstellar traveler passing silently above. The contrast was almost poetic. Mars, glowing brilliantly, ancient and stationary in its orbit, served as a reference point, an anchor of familiarity. Against that brilliance, the comet's faint light underscored the scale of observation and the delicacy of detection. One could imagine looking at a lighthouse from a mile away, while a single firefly hovers unnoticed nearby. Yet the instruments caught that firefly, recorded it, and revealed it to the world. Scientists marveled not only at the comet, but at the ingenuity of the technology itself. Cameras designed for geology now captured physics, engineering now measured chemistry, and instruments optimized for one environment became tools for discovery in another. It was a reminder of the adaptability of human ingenuity and the universe's willingness to surprise even the most prepared observers. The comet's faint trail was subtle yet persistent. Its tail, illuminated weakly by the sun's distant rays, stretched like a delicate brushstroke across the image. Dust and vapor reflected light just enough to be detectable, yet remained almost imperceptible when compared to Mars's radiance. Each frame required meticulous processing to isolate the comet's signal, removing interference, filtering noise, and amplifying what might have otherwise been lost. In every sense, it was a triumph of observation against overwhelming odds. And in this quiet achievement, there was a larger reflection. The universe rarely announces its wonders. Often they are glimpsed by accident, caught when curiosity, technology, and chance converge. Mars was the intended subject. The comet was the uninvited guest. Yet it revealed itself fully, patiently, as if waiting for instruments to notice. It was a reminder that discovery is as much about being prepared to see the unexpected as it is about looking where we expect to. The faint light also carried an emotional weight. There is a subtle wonder in recognizing something so small and so distant, yet so significant. A comet from another star system, faint against the glare of Mars, suddenly feels intimate. Each photon that reaches the camera carries the history of billions of years, of travels through darkness and cold that no human will ever experience directly. And yet, through careful observation, through technology, through patience, that story becomes visible, tangible, and profoundly moving. As the images were analyzed, scientists traced the comet's motion against the brilliant Martian disk. Tiny deviations, subtle flares in brightness, hints of activity in the coma. Each element required careful attention. The comet was faint, fragile in appearance, but it carried with it evidence of processes that could not be ignored. Outgassing, sublimation, subtle chemical interactions, a tiny glowing testament to activity far beyond the bounds of the solar system. And perhaps most striking was the perspective it offered. Standing metaphorically on the surface of Mars, looking out at the vast black beyond, one could see both the familiar, the glowing dusty plains, and the extraordinary, a comet traveling across the interstellar gulf, faint yet radiant, ordinary yet impossible. The image captured the delicate interplay of scale, distance, and light. It reminded observers that the cosmos is vast, layered, and full of surprises, often revealed not in grand explosions but in faint, persistent glimmers. In the quiet that followed, there was awe. The spacecraft had glimpsed something fundamentally alien against a backdrop overwhelmingly bright, and had done so with precision and clarity that seemed almost improbable. Technology designed for one purpose had illuminated another entirely, capturing a visitor that was never expected, a story that began far beyond the sun and had traveled to meet us and Mars in a fleeting, subtle glow. And so the faint white speck, 10,000 times dimmer than the planet it orbited, became a symbol of cosmic perspective. That even against overwhelming brightness, even in the shadow of a world so close, the universe allows glimpses of the extraordinary, waiting patiently for eyes, human or mechanical, to notice. In the vast emptiness of space, light becomes more than illumination. It is a sculptor, a painter, a quiet artist that traces forms invisible to the naked eye. On 3I Atlas, sunlight touches frozen surfaces billions of kilometers from the sun, and ice transforms into vapor, rising like smoke from a celestial hearth. Dust, suspended in the coma, catches the faint rays, scattering them into a soft glow that seems almost deliberate, as though the comet itself is drawing patterns across the void. The jets erupt in silent bursts, arcs of vapor and ice dancing outward from the comet's surface. Their motion is graceful, choreographed by physics yet strangely poetic, like ribbons of mist in a windless dawn. The sunlight catches these plumes, painting them in subtle hues, sometimes silvery, sometimes faintly green, a spectral whisper of chemical composition. Against the backdrop of infinite black, the comet becomes a living canvas, a luminous sculpture in motion, revealing processes both delicate and immense. There is a paradox in observing such activity. In the emptiness of interstellar space, creation persists in miniature. Ice sublimates, dust drifts, photons scatter. Yet in this emptiness, the universe is doing what it has always done, transforming, shaping, creating. Even in isolation, even billions of kilometers from warmth and gravity, the comet is active, alive in its own elemental way. It is a reminder that activity is not limited to life, nor is creation limited to worlds with oceans or atmospheres. The greenish hue of some jets is subtle, almost imperceptible in raw images, yet detectable through careful analysis. It is the signature of molecules released during sublimation, water interacting with trace metals, perhaps organic compounds glowing faintly under ultraviolet sunlight. These are whispers of chemistry, a reminder that even objects cast adrift through the galaxy carry within them the fingerprints of processes that predate human civilization. They are laboratories in miniature, conducting experiments over billions of years, without witnesses, without urgency, yet profoundly instructive. The motion of dust and gas is mesmerizing. Tiny particles, mere microns in size, arc outward along trajectories shaped by solar wind and the comet's own subtle gravity. Each plume moves in patterns dictated by rotation, surface topology, and thermal fluctuations. Yet the overall effect is one of organic fluidity, a slow-motion ballet unfolding across millions of kilometers. The spacecraft observed these motions, capturing images that transform data into motion, light, and pattern, bridging mathematics with beauty. This is dust becoming fire. Ice and minerals, once frozen and inert, are transformed by light into kinetic energy, forming glowing tendrils of motion across the emptiness. The comet's activity is slow yet deliberate, persistent yet ephemeral. Each moment of sublimation is fleeting, yet the cumulative effect is luminous and astonishing. The glow, delicate yet insistent, is the echo of distant suns, the interaction of photons with matter that has traveled from another star system. It is a subtle fireworks display, invisible to the unaided eye, yet profound in its existence. In the quiet hum of orbiters, the data streams back to Earth. Each jet, each plume, each fluctuation in brightness is measured, analyzed, cataloged. Yet there is space for reflection. The process is so simple in essence. Ice turns to vapor, dust scatters, light illuminates, and yet it produces something astonishing. Even the simplest physical processes, when placed in the grandeur of interstellar isolation, create a spectacle that is as much art as it is science. There is an almost meditative quality to this observation. To watch 3I Atlas is to witness patience incarnate. The comet has endured eons in darkness, drifting through cold, lonely voids. And now, illuminated by a distant sun, it responds quietly, releasing material in patterned bursts, transforming mere ice into ephemeral light. It is a narrative of resilience, of persistence, of the inherent creativity embedded in matter itself. The spacecraft's cameras capture not only the comet, but the space around it. The halo of vapor diffuses light subtly. The dust grains shimmer faintly as sunlight refracts off them, and even minor jets become luminous arcs, painted delicately against a canvas of infinite black. These features, invisible without instruments, are reminders of how much the universe hides in the faintest glimmers, and how much can be revealed by attentive observation. There is poetry in the mechanics. Sublimation occurs because molecules gain energy, break free from their icy prison, and escape into the void. Dust grains, no larger than tiny grains of sand, are swept along, scattering light like fine mist catching morning rays. The entire process is both predictable and unpredictable, predictable in its physical principles, unpredictable in the shapes, patterns, and timing of jets. It is a dance that is simultaneously logical and beautiful, a quiet testament to the artistry of nature itself. And in the midst of this, the comet's color and glow hint at its interstellar origin. The subtle green, the composition of the ejected material, and the sheer intensity of the coma all suggest that 3I Atlas is not merely a solar system visitor. It carries the fingerprints of another world, entirely a chemistry unfamiliar, a history that began far from the sun. Every jet is a message, a note in a silent symphony of matter traveling across the galaxy, waiting to be interpreted by those patient enough to watch. There is also an emotional resonance. To witness dust become fire, to see frozen matter transformed into radiant trails across a void, is to confront the sheer inventiveness of the cosmos. It is a humbling reminder that life is not the only form of creation. Energy, matter, light, these alone are sufficient to produce spectacle. And in the quiet observation of this comet, there is a meditation on scale, time, and persistence, that even the smallest particles, under the right conditions, can contribute to beauty, complexity, and wonder. The scene lingers. Jets continue to erupt, arcs of gas and dust slowly shifting in space. The comet moves with steady grace, unhurried yet precise. Instruments orbiting Mars follow its motion, capturing details of the interaction between sunlight, ice, and dust. The patterns are delicate, transient, yet eternal in their repetition. It is a subtle reminder that creation does not always roar. Sometimes it glows quietly in the void. And as the observation continues, one cannot help but reflect that even in emptiness, creation persists. Even in darkness, transformation occurs. Ice becomes vapor, dust becomes light, and the smallest comet, billions of kilometers from any sun, becomes a painter of the void. In this, there is solace, wonder, and a quiet, enduring awe. 3I Atlas is more than a comet. It is a reminder that even in isolation, even across unimaginable distances, the universe is never still, never silent, and always capable of producing moments of quiet, radiant beauty. As 3I Atlas drifted closer to the sun, the faint speck that had first appeared against Mars's brilliance began to change. Slowly, subtly, almost imperceptibly at first, a glow expanded outward, forming a soft, diffuse halo around the nucleus. It was the comet's coma, a tenuous envelope of gas and dust released from the surface. But what it revealed stunned even the most experienced observers. The halo stretched thousands of kilometers across, far larger than any models had predicted for an object of its size and distance. The first images of the growing coma arrived as streams of data, pixels translating into a faintly luminous veil that seemed to breathe around the comet. The sunlight striking its icy surface caused sublimation at unprecedented rates, and the released gas and dust caught the light in ways that made the coma appear almost tangible, almost alive. Against the vast black of interplanetary space, the comet was no longer a simple, static body. It was dynamic, changing, responding to forces that were both predictable and mysterious. ESA's scientists began measuring the halo, charting its expansion frame by frame. The numbers were almost incomprehensible. Tens of thousands of kilometers, measured not in earthbound terms but across a vacuum where such distances are invisible to human perception, yet now rendered clear through the careful observation of orbiting instruments. The faint light of the coma, delicate as it seemed, represented vast quantities of material. Molecules released from ice that had endured billions of years in darkness, now participating in a cosmic dance under sunlight. There was a haunting quality to the images. The music accompanying the visualization softened, slowed, leaving space for reflection. The coma shimmered with subtle variations in brightness, jets and plumes subtly altering its shape, hinting at internal structures within the comet that were otherwise invisible. It moved with a grace that suggested intent, as if the comet itself were aware of the sun's touch, responding to light and heat as a living entity might respond to a gentle hand. Observers were struck by the scale. The coma's diffuse light spanned more than some planets' diameters, yet its density remained almost negligible. It was an immense presence, occupying space across thousands of kilometers, yet fragile, composed of molecules barely bound together, swept outward by the pressure of sunlight and the momentum of the comet's motion. It was a paradox, enormous and insubstantial, visible yet almost ghostly, a glowing veil drifting silently through the void. And as the scientists continued their measurements, a sense of awe deepened. The coma was no longer just a halo of light. It was a record of the comet's activity, a window into processes invisible to the naked eye. Jets of gas continued to erupt from the surface. Streams of dust followed arcs dictated by subtle forces, and the faint greenish glow from certain molecules added spectral hints of the comet's unique chemistry. It was an active, living sculpture of ice and dust, shaped by physics, yet possessing a beauty that transcended calculation. The scale also carried implication. The rate of material release suggested that 3I Atlas was shedding ice and dust at volumes far beyond those of comets familiar to the solar system. It was as if sunlight had awakened something dormant, a frozen traveler now displaying energy levels unexpected for an object so distant. Its growth was not linear but fluctuating, responding to rotation, surface composition, and perhaps even subtle variations in internal structure. The coma was alive in its motion, pulsing with the energy of sublimation, expanding and contracting in ways that were almost poetic. From Mars' orbit, the orbiters captured the full extent of this phenomenon. Instruments tuned for planetary observation now recorded interstellar processes, translating the faint, expanding halo into data that revealed the comet's behavior in exquisite detail. Every plume, every jet, every subtle flare in the coma contributed to an understanding that was as much visual and emotional as it was scientific. And yet, despite the rigor of measurement, there remained an ineffable quality to what was being observed. The feeling that this comet was not merely an object of study, but a participant in a silent dialogue with the sun and the void. The haunting music accompanying these observations underscored the strangeness of the moment. The coma seemed to pulse in time with distant photons, waves of sublimated material reflecting light across vast distances. The comet appeared almost sentient, alive in its response to sunlight, carrying with it the suggestion of intent and vitality that no calculations could fully capture. It was a reminder that while the universe obeys laws, those laws can produce phenomena that feel alive, luminous, and deeply mysterious. Scientists marveled at the complexity revealed in the expanding coma. Variations in brightness hinted at jets from different regions of the nucleus. The shape of the halo reflected rotational dynamics, irregularities in surface composition, and the uneven distribution of volatile ices. Even minor fluctuations became significant, patterns revealing the hidden architecture of a body that had traveled billions of years across interstellar space. The comet was a record of survival, a relic of distant stellar formation, and now, through its halo, it was communicating its journey in subtle but unmistakable ways. And yet, the images also inspired reflection. How fragile is this presence? How easily might it be disrupted, dissipated into the void? The coma is immense and yet tenuous, brilliant yet delicate, a monument to impermanence, visible only because sunlight illuminates it, and only because instruments are precise enough to capture it. In the act of observing, humans witness not just the comet, but the delicate interplay of distance, scale, and energy that allows something so ephemeral to exist visibly at all. The halo expanded further, becoming a luminous cloud that dwarfed the orbiters themselves. Its edges were diffuse, soft, and constantly changing, hinting at the constant motion of particles escaping the nucleus. Each jet added new layers, creating complex patterns of light and shadow, a three-dimensional structure of gas and dust that shifted subtly as the comet rotated. The effect was mesmerizing. A celestial aura in motion, a luminous veil that seemed almost conscious in its rhythm. In the quiet moments, when telemetry paused and the music softened, one could almost imagine the comet as a sentient entity, responding to its environment with slow, deliberate gestures, not in consciousness, not in thought, but in the language of physics and chemistry. A silent ballet dictated by light, heat, and material properties, yet possessing a presence that feels intimate, alive, and profoundly strange. And as the coma continued to expand, the lesson became clear. The universe is capable of astonishment even in the smallest, most unassuming travelers. A faint white speck against Mars's brilliance had become a luminous cloud, stretching thousands of kilometers, pulsing with energy, responding to sunlight, as if aware. The comet was no longer just a point of light. It was a phenomenon, a living halo, and a reminder that even in the silent void of interstellar space, the cosmos is dynamic, responsive, and capable of wonder beyond comprehension. Comets, by their very nature, carry signatures of motion. As they travel through the solar system, sunlight and solar wind sweep gas and dust into long, graceful tails, streaming away from the sun, pointing directly along the vector of their journey. The tail is predictable, elegant, a visual echo of physical laws at work. It is one of the most recognizable and reassuring aspects of cometary behavior, a celestial arrow marking both direction and distance. The ExoMars team set out to capture that signature. They aimed the orbiter's instruments carefully, tracing the path of 3I Atlas across the void, expecting to see the familiar fan of dust and ionized gas extending from the comet. But the images returned were puzzling. There was no tail, not in any conventional sense. The faint coma glowed, as it had before, but the expected sweep of material, the linear stream that should have trailed behind like a cosmic contrail, simply did not appear. Instead, the data revealed subtle, irregular emissions. Jets of gas erupted at angles unaligned with the trajectory of the comet. Streams of dust drifted sideways, diffuse and unpredictable, forming patterns that seemed almost chaotic. There was motion, but it was not the motion scientists had been trained to anticipate. It was as if the comet were defying the very rules that govern how these icy wanderers interact with sunlight and solar wind. Every frame was analyzed in painstaking detail. The spacecraft traced the comet's orientation, rotation, and velocity. They charted every plume, every flare of light. And still, the tail did not appear. Instead, the emissions suggested local activity on the comet's surface, irregular and directional in ways that were difficult to reconcile with conventional models. It was a subtle but unmistakable signal that 3I Atlas was not behaving like any comet previously observed. There was a quiet tension in the control rooms. Scientists spoke in measured tones, acknowledging the anomaly while ensuring that every measurement, every calculation, had been verified. Nothing indicated an error in instrumentation or observation. The comet was behaving as it was, strange, unpredictable, and wholly unlike anything familiar. The absence of a conventional tail was not a mere curiosity. It was evidence that the object was fundamentally different. The plume patterns, irregular as they were, carried clues. Some emissions were episodic, erupting in sudden bursts before fading. Others formed diffuse clouds that drifted in directions not dictated by the comet's motion. There was no simple alignment with solar radiation pressure, no neat stream forming behind the comet's trajectory. Each new dataset deepened the sense of mystery. It was as if the comet had its own internal logic, operating on rules that were only partially visible to human observation. Scientists began to visualize the phenomenon. Animations showed the coma glowing, while multiple plumes twisted and shifted around it, forming arcs and patterns that seemed almost deliberate. The effect was subtle, a faint play of light and shadow across a sparse halo, yet profoundly disquieting. The comet's surface was active, alive with localized jets, but there was no coherence in the direction of the emissions. It was chaotic yet structured, a contradiction that provoked both fascination and unease. In a broader context, this behavior challenged expectations about interstellar comets. Objects like 3I Atlas are thought to be remnants of other star systems, small, icy bodies that should act predictably under the influence of sunlight. They are relics of distant formation, traveling largely inert across the galaxy until they encounter a solar system. And yet, this comet was not inert. Its emissions, disorganized and irregular, suggested internal activity that was persistent, energetic, and not bound to the simple physics of solar heating alone. The absence of a traditional tail also complicated observation. Tails provide orientation, clues about motion, and visual markers that help predict trajectory. Without it, scientists were forced to rely on the faint halo and isolated plumes, piecing together motion and rotation indirectly. Every calculation required careful adjustment. Every image demanded interpretation. The comet was revealing only partial information, offering glimpses of behavior that were fascinating, frustrating, and deeply enigmatic. There was also an emotional dimension to the observation. The expected tail would have provided comfort, a familiar signal in an unfamiliar event. Its absence created unease. The comet seemed autonomous, resistant to human expectation. It moved through space according to laws we understand in part, yet its local emissions and behavior suggested there was more, something subtle, complex, and beyond immediate comprehension. It was a reminder that the universe often resists simplification, that even familiar phenomena can surprise when observed under new circumstances. Despite the anomaly, the data continued to be processed, cataloged, and analyzed. Scientists measured particle velocities, tracked jet directions, and monitored changes in brightness. Each dataset was a fragment of understanding, a piece of a puzzle that refused to fit neatly. And yet there was progress. The strange emissions themselves became a source of insight, suggesting compositional heterogeneity, localized outgassing, and processes perhaps shaped by a history beyond the solar system. In the quiet of the observation, the comet seemed almost sentient, not conscious in any human sense, but responsive in ways that felt intentional. The irregular plumes, the absence of a tail, the complex coma dynamics, these were signs of an object behaving on its own terms, according to rules partly visible and partly hidden. And in this, the human response was one of awe, tempered with unease. The realization that some objects in the cosmos will never behave exactly as we anticipate, and that true understanding requires patience, humility, and openness to surprise. And so 3I Atlas moved silently across the sky, without a tail to mark its path, yet leaving traces of motion in the scattered, unaligned emissions from its surface. The comet was a paradox, familiar in form, yet alien in behavior, a reminder that observation alone is never complete, that the universe contains surprises, and that even a single icy traveler can challenge expectations, provoke curiosity, and inspire profound reflection on the complexity of interstellar life movement and matter. Amid the faint glow, the subtle jets, and the scattered emissions, one thought began to take hold. This comet was ancient, older than anything in the solar system, older than the sun itself, and perhaps a witness to a time before our planetary neighborhood even existed. In the quiet of analysis, scientists and observers alike found themselves confronted with a staggering realization. 3I Atlas might have formed billions of years before the sun ignited, in a star system long vanished from the galaxy. Every calculation reinforced the idea. Its trajectory, composition, and velocity suggested an origin outside our own system, an interstellar traveler cast adrift by gravitational forces billions of years ago. It had survived ejection from its parent star, drifted across interstellar space, and now at last was visible within our own celestial neighborhood. The journey alone would have spanned light years, measured in distances impossible for the human mind to fully comprehend. And yet, here it was, a faint speck against the blackness of space, carrying with it a story older than our sun. The voice of the narrator softens. Every particle in its core has seen suns that have already burned out. The thought is almost unbearable in its scale. Each atom, each grain of ice and dust was forged in an environment alien to our sun, under conditions long extinct in our corner of the galaxy. The comet's material predates the planets, predates Earth, predates even the formation of our star. It is, in a sense, a time capsule from a universe long past, a messenger from cosmic history itself. Visualizations of the comet often linger on its faint luminous nucleus, tiny, unassuming, yet containing within it a record of a bygone era. The ice, the dust, the organic molecules, all are relics of a stellar nursery that existed before the sun's light touched the newborn planets. These particles have endured supernovae, interstellar radiation, and the slow, relentless cold of deep space. They carry the memory of distant stars, some of which no longer shine, having lived and died long before Earth's first oceans formed. The age of 3I Atlas evokes a sense of cosmic melancholy. It is beautiful, luminous, and alive with activity, yet it is also a relic of destruction and disappearance. The stars that once illuminated its home system may now exist only as remnants, white dwarfs, neutron stars, or collapsed clouds of gas. And still, the comet persists, traversing space in silent witness to a history that no human could have observed. It is ancient yet present, ephemeral yet enduring. Every measurement taken by orbiters and telescopes reinforces this perspective. Spectral data, isotopic ratios, and chemical composition all hint at processes that predate the sun. Some molecules are formed only in environments older than our solar system. Others carry signatures of interstellar radiation over eons. The comet's core is a frozen record, its surface a pale canvas preserving eons of cosmic history. It is a relic and a revelation, offering a glimpse into stellar evolution, planetary formation, and the resilience of matter across time and space. The mind drifts naturally to reflection. What did 3I Atlas witness as it journeyed across the galaxy? Stars igniting, planets forming, solar systems collapsing into dust. Perhaps it passed near other worlds, close enough to graze the edges of alien atmospheres, yet distant enough to remain undisturbed. Perhaps it witnessed the death of suns and the birth of others. It traveled in silence for billions of years, indifferent to the life and death of galaxies until it encountered the familiar warmth of our sun. The pacing slows. The focus shifts from the comet's behavior to its existence as a monument to time itself. Its jets, coma, and faint glow are not just scientific curiosities. They are markers of persistence. They are proof that matter forged in one corner of the galaxy can survive the chaos of interstellar space and arrive in another, carrying with it a story that predates all familiar history. The comet is a reminder that age does not erase presence, that time, no matter how vast, does not extinguish the enduring. This realization brings a quiet, almost meditative awe. Looking at 3I Atlas is like peering into a cosmic mirror. It forces a reckoning with scale, with duration, with the fragility of human experience compared to the deep history written in ice, dust, and interstellar travel. It is humbling to consider that while civilizations rise and fall on Earth, this comet has persisted, immune to history, carrying particles that have witnessed suns we will never see. And yet there is a kind of comfort in that thought. The comet's presence is not destructive, it is silent, patient, and luminous. Its motion through the solar system, its faint glow against Mars's sky, is a gentle reminder that history exists beyond human perception, that matter can endure, and that some messages from the universe arrive quietly, without fanfare, but with profound significance. Scientists continue to analyze, to chart, to interpret, but in the end, there is also room for reflection. The age of 3I Atlas transcends numbers and trajectories. It is a living bridge between star systems, a traveler from before the sun, a witness to time itself. Every observation is an opportunity to glimpse not only the comet's composition, but its history, its journey, and the broader story of a galaxy in motion. And in the final stillness, the narrator offers a thought that lingers. Every particle in its core has seen suns that have already burned out. Every grain of ice carries memory. Every molecule whispers of a past we cannot touch, yet are allowed to see for a brief moment in the quiet glow of an interstellar visitor. 3I Atlas is more than a comet. It is a fragment of cosmic history, older than the sun, older than the planets, a silent witness to the birth and death of stars, and now, for a fleeting instant, visible to human eyes. In its glow there is melancholy, wonder, and an invitation to reflect on the scale of time and the endurance of matter across the galaxy. Light carries information. It is more than illumination. It is a messenger, encoding the history and composition of the objects it touches. For 3I Atlas, sunlight reflected off the comet's icy surface and diffused through its coma carried secrets billions of years old. Scientists turned to spectrometers, Omega, SpyCam, Nomad, instruments designed to dissect light into its constituent wavelengths, hoping to decode the story hidden in the comet's glow. The first readings were subtle. Almost imperceptible signals emerged from the faint halo, delicate traces of energy that hinted at composition, but refused to reveal everything at once. The instruments, designed for Mars' atmosphere and surface chemistry, were now being asked to interpret an interstellar visitor, a traveler formed in a time and place beyond human experience. Every spectrum was faint, incomplete, almost hesitant, as if the comet itself were reluctant to divulge its secrets. Yet in these hesitant signals, patterns began to appear. Known molecules were detected: water, carbon monoxide, simple organics, each confirming what was expected, each a familiar note in a complex symphony. But alongside these familiar signals were anomalies, spectral lines that did not match any known cometary chemistry, traces of molecules that, until now, had been theorized but never observed in a comet. Their presence was subtle, yet unmistakable. The light carried evidence of processes alien to the solar system, processes that challenged assumptions about how comets form, survive, and interact with sunlight. The atmosphere in control rooms shifted from careful observation to quiet disbelief. These were not the dramatic shocks of explosions or collisions, but a more profound, meditative astonishment. Something fundamental about the comet defied expectation. Its composition suggested origins that were not merely interstellar, but potentially interstellar, in a way unlike anything previously catalogued. Each spectral line was a whisper from an ancient past, a chemical signature formed in environments long extinct, carried intact across the void. Spectrometers teased out subtle features of the coma. Variations in brightness, absorption, and emission revealed layers of activity, hints of complex molecular interactions, and the presence of volatile compounds behaving in ways inconsistent with distance from the sun. Molecules once thought to require heat, radiation, or specific conditions seemed active here, far from the warmth of any star. The physics that should have constrained them appeared stretched, modified, or entirely circumvented. Analysts approached the data with both rigor and humility. Every peak, trough, and wavelength was scrutinized. Calibrations were repeated, filters applied, and noise accounted for. Yet the anomalies persisted. The faint traces were real, reliable, and deeply puzzling. Here, in the quiet glow of a comet billions of years old, were molecules never before detected in any cometary environment, subtle signatures of chemistry formed in alien conditions, now revealed to human eyes for the first time. The interplay of light and chemistry became almost poetic. Sunlight struck ice, sublimating molecules into space. These molecules absorbed and re-emitted photons, scattering them into the instruments with faint, delicate signatures. Each spectral line was a brushstroke in a painting billions of years in the making. a record of molecular history that predated the Sun, Earth, and even the earliest stars in our galactic neighborhood. It was subtle, intricate, and profoundly moving. And yet, the data also highlighted the limitations of understanding. Spectrometers can detect wavelengths, identify molecules, and measure energy levels, but they cannot explain origin. They cannot convey the full narrative of 3I Atlas's formation, the journey it undertook, or the conditions under which its unusual molecules arose. The faintness of the signals, their hesitation, mirrored the broader mystery. We were only glimpsing a fragment of a story that spanned billions of years, across distances too vast to imagine, told in a language we are only beginning to understand. As the analysis continued, scientists noted patterns that hinted at structure. Certain emissions were concentrated in jets, others diffused across the coma, suggesting localized activity. The comet was not uniform, its chemistry was patchwork, its processes variable and complex. This reinforced the sense of 3I Atlas as something almost alive, not in consciousness but in its dynamic response to sunlight, its heterogeneous outgassing, its selective illumination of molecules that carried the echoes of alien origins. Each spectral anomaly prompted hypotheses. Were these molecules remnants from a long-dead star, products of chemical reactions in interstellar clouds, or signatures of processes entirely unknown, waiting for human science to catch up? Every possibility was tantalizing and unsettling, each requiring caution, replication, and reflection. There was wonder in discovery, tempered by the humility demanded by an interstellar visitor. The faint emissions seemed almost deliberate, not conscious, not sentient, yet resistant to immediate comprehension. It was as if the comet was offering only pieces of itself, measured, fragmentary, teasing the observers. Each spectrum was a conversation across billions of years and billions of kilometers, a slow, quiet dialogue between human instruments and an object shaped in a stellar nursery light years from Earth. Amid this, there was a profound sense of connection. Through spectrometers, humans could interact with something so distant, so ancient, and yet so present. Light, carrying information across the void, allowed comprehension of a chemistry that had evolved long before humans existed. It was an encounter with history itself, a silent communication from a traveler that had seen suns ignite and die, carrying the memory of stars no longer shining. And still, the mystery deepened. Every new observation, every refined measurement revealed additional anomalies, subtle patterns that eluded complete explanation. The faint signals were enough to challenge assumptions, to rewrite parts of the narrative of cometary physics, and to remind observers that interstellar objects may operate under rules both familiar and alien. Finally, there was a moment of reflection, a pause in the analysis where the implications settled in. This was no ordinary comet. It was a messenger, carrying molecules formed in alien conditions, preserving chemical histories older than the solar system itself, revealing a level of complexity unexpected and almost incomprehensible. Its spectral mystery was both scientific and philosophical, a puzzle, a revelation, and a reminder of the vast, intricate, and surprising cosmos in which we exist. The voice softens as the chapter closes. The comet speaks in light, in molecules, in faint signatures across the void. Each signal is a whisper, every spectrum a story, and every observation a reminder that the universe is stranger, older, and more beautiful than we can fully imagine. 3I Atlas had revealed not only its presence but a chemical enigma. It was a challenge to understanding, a testament to the resilience of matter across time, and an invitation to continue watching, measuring, and wondering at a visitor from beyond the stars. Data is rarely perfect. Every measurement from Mars Express and the ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter carries background interference, cosmic radiation, and subtle distortions from instruments themselves. In the quiet hum of orbiting spacecraft, millions of signals arrive as faint electrical impulses translated into numbers, then into images, spectra, and visualizations. For 3I Atlas, this process has been painstaking, each faint photon painstakingly captured, separated from noise, and amplified. To understand the comet's faint signals, scientists began combining datasets. Mars Express and TGO, instruments designed for planetary observation, were now acting in concert, cross-referencing readings to tease out the faintest traces of matter from the void. The aim was simple: increase clarity, reduce uncertainty, and see the comet in ways a single instrument could not. But as the data merged, something curious appeared. Amid the usual fluctuations of background noise, subtle patterns emerged. Tiny pulses, barely above detection thresholds, repeated in irregular intervals. At first, they seemed like artifacts: instrumental interference, data compression errors, the inevitable quirks of electronics operating millions of kilometers from Earth. But the pulses persisted. They were too regular, too rhythmic to be dismissed entirely. There was structure in the noise, a repetition that suggested more than mere chance. Analysts approached the phenomenon cautiously. Every calibration was double-checked, every signal scrutinized. The pulse patterns were evident across multiple instruments, reducing the likelihood of interference. It was as if the comet itself, or something surrounding it, was imprinting a subtle rhythm into the data. A faint heartbeat across the void, invisible to sight but detectable in precise measurements. The effect was almost hypnotic. The pulses were faint, soft, delicate, yet their presence shifted the atmosphere of observation. What had begun as calm curiosity was tinged with unease. The instruments were revealing more than just light and matter. They were revealing structure embedded in the very noise, a whisper of order in what should have been randomness. It raised questions without answers. Was this the comet's own activity? A byproduct of sublimation, jetting, and rotation? Or something else entirely? An interaction between light, matter, and space that defied conventional understanding. Visualizations of the pulse patterns added to the mystery. Waveforms traced across screens, faint peaks and valleys forming subtle, almost musical rhythms. Overlaying data from Mars Express and TGO amplified the effect, revealing harmonics and correlations that had not been obvious before. Each combination brought new clarity, yet also new questions. What was causing this periodicity? And why now, at this stage in the comet's journey through the solar system? Scientists began to speculate cautiously. Could localized jets create subtle fluctuations in the coma's density, modulating the light that reached the spectrometers and cameras? Perhaps rotation of the nucleus exposed areas of different activity in a regular cycle, imprinting a faint rhythm onto the emitted signals. Yet even these hypotheses struggled to explain the persistence and subtle complexity of the patterns. The comet seemed, in some small way, to be signaling through the noise, a message hidden beneath layers of photons and electrons. The human response to this phenomenon was quiet, measured yet tinged with awe. No one claimed understanding. No one suggested communication. But there was wonder. The faint, rhythmic patterns hinted at a level of complexity in 3I Atlas that surpassed any ordinary interstellar object. The comet's coma, its jets, its molecular composition, everything seen so far had been extraordinary. Now even its background signal carried hints of unexpected structure, a hidden narrative encoded in subtle pulses across the instruments. The music accompanying visualizations softened to near silence, leaving only the faint, imagined rhythm of the pulses. The effect was intimate, almost meditative. One could imagine the comet as a vast ancient instrument, its sublimation, rotation, and interaction with sunlight producing faint vibrations detectable only by the most sensitive instruments. Not a message in words, not a conscious signal, but an imprint of physics, chemistry, and history layered across billions of kilometers. And yet, unease lingered. The patterns were real, but their origin remained uncertain. Was this simply noise, shaped by chance, magnified by instrumentation? Or was it evidence of a phenomenon intrinsic to the comet itself? A subtle rhythm produced by internal dynamics, the uneven ejection of gas and dust, or even a rotational resonance across the icy nucleus? Each possibility was tantalizing, each inviting further observation, analysis, and reflection. The narrative of the comet shifted in these moments. It was no longer merely a luminous object against the Martian sky. It was a participant in a dialogue of physics and measurement, an entity whose behavior was complex enough to generate patterns in its background emissions. Even in silence, it was speaking, in ways that could be perceived only with patient, meticulous observation. Its voice was quiet, hidden in noise, yet unmistakable once recognized. Scientists continued to refine their analyses, adjusting filters, synchronizing readings, and seeking correlations across multiple instruments. Every iteration reinforced the same subtle conclusion. There was a pulse, persistent and patterned, embedded in the comet's signal. It was not dramatic, not explosive, but it was there. A hint of order in a chaotic environment, a gentle, rhythmic note echoing across the void. In the quiet moments of contemplation, observers reflected on what this meant. The comet had traveled billions of years across interstellar space, carrying material older than the sun. Its composition was alien, its activity unprecedented, its coma vast and luminous. And now, even in the faintest fluctuations of light and noise, it revealed complexity that defied expectation. The universe, it seemed, had a way of embedding meaning in the smallest, most overlooked places. In the background hum of instruments, in the subtle flicker of light, in patterns that might have gone unnoticed if not for patient observation. And as the chapter closes, the narrator's voice softens, leaving the viewer suspended between curiosity and wonder. In the noise, there is structure. In the faintest pulse, a story. We do not yet understand it, but it is there, waiting. A quiet message from an ancient traveler across the void. 3 Atlas, faint, luminous, rhythmic, continued its journey past Mars. Its light and its pulses traveled through space, carrying whispers of time, matter, and mystery, leaving humanity with the profound reminder that even in silence the cosmos can speak. Mars hung silently beneath the vast expanse of the sky, its red surface bathed in a pale, diffuse light. The planet's ridges, valleys, and towering volcanoes were etched in shadow and bronze, every crater and canyon visible in the soft glow of sunlight scattered across the thin atmosphere. Above, a faint streak of light cut across the heavens. 3i, Atlas, an alien visitor, distant yet luminous, drifting through the void with a slow, deliberate grace. The imagery itself became almost cinematic. The camera of imagination pans across the rust-colored plains of Mars, over Olympus Mons and the Valles Marineris, lingering on dust-swept deserts and polar ice caps. Against this backdrop, the comet's pale glow seems almost fragile, a delicate thread of light stretching across darkness. And yet, in that small, luminous point, there is presence, there is motion, there is history older than the sun itself. There is poetry in this juxtaposition. One alien world, stationary in its orbit, watches another, transient and wandering, pass silently across the sky. Mars, shaped by its own long and quiet history, has known its share of cosmic encounters, meteors, dust storms, the occasional flash of a distant asteroid, yet none like this. 3i Atlas is not merely passing. It is glowing, active, luminous against the void, a reminder that even the cold, silent deserts of Mars are participants in a broader cosmic story. The narrator's voice softens, meditative. Somewhere above the Martian horizon, an alien traveler drifts across the sky, unseen by eyes that could never reach it, yet present enough to mark time and space in its passage. The words linger, allowing the listener to feel the enormity of scale, the poetry of silence, and the profound quietude of observation. From orbit, ESA's instruments capture the spectacle. Cameras sensitive to faint light trace the comet's path, following it across thousands of kilometers of sky. The coma glows softly, luminous but ethereal, casting a ghostly reflection against the distant surface of Mars. Data streams in, images, spectral readings, coordinates. Yet in this moment, numbers are secondary. The visual experience, the emotional resonance, is what defines the scene. A planet watching a visitor, an observer witnessing another observer in the silence of space. The narrative lingers on contrasts. Mars is solid, permanent, shaped over billions of years by volcanoes, wind, and impact. 3i Atlas is transient, drifting through the solar system at tens of kilometers per second, luminous yet fragile, its icy surface slowly eroding under sunlight. One is a monument to endurance, the other a messenger of ancient history, ephemeral yet infinitely significant. And yet, in the quiet of this observation there is symmetry. Both worlds, alien and distant, exist together for a brief, luminous moment. The music accompanying the imagery is sparse, reflective, soft as if the universe itself has taken a breath. Each frame lingers. The faint greenish glow of the comet's jets, the subtle shadows across Martian canyons, the diffuse light of the coma stretching into interplanetary darkness. There is no hurry, no dramatic crescendos, only the meditative cadence of the cosmos, the quiet poetry of alien worlds in silent interaction. Scientists continue their work, even in the midst of this pause. Instruments on Mars Express and TGO record every detail: the position of the comet, the brightness of its coma, the spectral fingerprints of molecules, the faintest plumes of dust. Yet the scene allows for reflection. There is space between observation and understanding, a moment to absorb the wonder of witnessing something entirely foreign, something that challenges both expectations and imagination. The narrator emphasizes this sense of perspective. To watch a comet not of our system drift across the sky of a neighboring planet is to glimpse a story larger than ourselves, older than our sun, and stranger than we can fully comprehend. Words hang in the air, almost as if the silence itself amplifies them, allowing the listener to feel the vastness of distance and the quiet intimacy of this cosmic encounter. There is also a sense of anticipation in the stillness. Mars watches, three-eye Atlas glows, and the human instruments record every faint signal. The calm allows the mind to settle into the enormity of time and scale. What has traveled billions of years? What carries the remnants of ancient stars? What glows faintly against the red planet's sky? It is all present now, here, for a moment that is fleeting yet unforgettable. The comet, its coma expanding, its jets faintly pulsing, continues its silent drift. Mars, in contrast, turns slowly in its orbit, its surface weathered, its valleys deep, its history quiet. And in that juxtaposition lies a meditation on observation itself, that even in vast, silent space, there is dialogue. Not in words, but in presence. Not in sound, but in shared existence. Mars and the comet intersect, however briefly, in the perception of human instruments. And in that intersection, the universe feels both intimate and infinite. The final images linger. A wide-angle view frames Mars in shadowed, reddish light, the comet's faint streak above it, distant stars glittering in the background. The narrative softens, reflective. For a moment, an alien world watched another alien traveler, a silent witness to a journey that spans billions of years. And in that quiet, we are reminded that the cosmos is vast, alive, and waiting to be seen. It is a pause before the next scientific leap. No conclusions yet, no revelations fully grasped, only observation, only reflection, only the poetry of silence, and the sense that something extraordinary has passed through the sky of a neighboring world, and we were there to witness it. In the vastness of space, where silence reigns and distances are measured in billions of kilometers, there exists a subtle tension between observation and understanding. Mars rotates slowly in its orbit, its surface etched with ancient canyons and volcanic peaks, its skies thin and fragile. Above it, instruments drift silently, capturing light, measuring particles, and following a visitor from beyond the solar system, three-eye Atlas. Yet beyond the data, beyond the measurements, there is a question that has long accompanied human observers. A question that is both philosophical and instinctive. Why do we chase these objects? Curiosity is a survival instinct. It has driven humans to climb mountains, cross oceans, and peer into the depths of the universe. It is a force that extends beyond necessity, beyond utility, reaching into the unknown simply because we can, because we seek understanding. Because the act of seeking connects us to the cosmos. When 3I Atlas appeared, faint, alien, and ancient, it was not merely an object to be catalogued. It was a puzzle, a whisper from another corner of the galaxy, an invitation to ask questions that have no immediate answers. The instruments aboard Mars Express and the ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter continue their work, drifting in silent orbits, recording faint photons, tracing the comet's path. The cameras capture subtle details of the coma. The spectral instruments detect the faintest traces of molecules. And yet, for all the precision of these machines, there is still mystery. Science allows us to measure, to quantify, to analyze, but it cannot on its own satisfy the deeper questions that arise when confronted with an object older than our sun, shaped in a distant stellar nursery, drifting across the void with quiet persistence. The narrator reflects. Each interstellar visitor forces us to reconsider not only the universe around us, but the universe within us. Our curiosity, our persistence, our desire to understand what lies beyond the horizon. And in this reflection, there is a pause, a deep breath. The orbiters continue their silent drift, tracing patterns invisible to the naked eye, yet intimately connected to the human mind through data, images, and the act of observation. We chase these objects because they challenge our assumptions. They test our understanding of physics, chemistry, and the history of the cosmos. 3I Atlas is not merely a comet. It is a messenger from another time, carrying chemical signatures, structural anomalies, and patterns of motion that defy conventional expectations. Its faint glow, its irregular jets, its rhythmic pulses embedded in noise, all of these are reminders that the universe is not fully known, that even the most familiar celestial objects may behave in ways we cannot yet predict. There is an emotional dimension to this pursuit. To observe an object from another star system, to witness the faint traces of a body that has traveled for billions of years, is to confront scale, time, and the fragility of human perception. We are momentary observers in a universe that is vast, ancient, and relentless. Yet through observation, analysis, and reflection, we bridge that gulf. The orbiters above Mars, their instruments trained on the faint light of 3I Atlas, are extensions of human curiosity, embodiments of the instinct to reach out and understand. Philosophically, there is also humility in this pursuit. 3I Atlas is indifferent to us. It does not slow or speed its passage to accommodate our instruments. It does not reveal its secrets willingly. And yet, by observing, by carefully measuring and analyzing, we gain insight into processes and histories that existed long before life on Earth. Each photon captured, each spectral line recorded, each subtle fluctuation in its coma is a fragment of knowledge, a gift from a traveler shaped in alien systems and preserved through billions of years of interstellar drift. The imagery emphasizes this quiet reflection. Mars rotates beneath faint streaks of light, dust storms curling across plains, shadows stretching across ancient volcanoes. The orbiters float, steady and unhurried, capturing the faint signals with precision. And above it all, the comet continues its journey, indifferent yet luminous, a distant point of light that draws human attention, not through proximity or danger, but through the subtle power of curiosity itself. There is poetry in this act of observation. In watching 3I Atlas, we watch a story older than our civilization, older than our star. We connect with processes that took place in distant stellar nurseries, with particles that have witnessed the birth and death of stars long extinguished. The pursuit of understanding becomes a meditation on time, scale, and persistence. And in this meditation there is awe, a recognition of our place, small yet inquisitive, in the larger cosmic narrative. Curiosity is also a mirror. By studying 3I Atlas, we reflect on ourselves. We consider how we define knowledge, how we distinguish observation from understanding, and how we place meaning in phenomena that exist beyond our control. The orbiters above Mars are extensions of these instincts, instruments translating the cosmos into data we can interpret, bridging the human mind to the vast, silent universe. And in that bridge lies a subtle truth. The pursuit itself is as important as any conclusion. The narrator continues, voice calm yet resonant. Every discovery, every faint signal, every spectral anomaly reminds us that the universe is not merely a backdrop for human activity. It is alive with complexity, older than our understanding, and indifferent to our presence. Yet through curiosity we find connection, and in connection we find meaning. Even as the orbiters drift, recording the comet's faint glow, the broader story unfolds. Mars itself, with its silent deserts and thin skies, becomes a participant in this quiet dialogue. The comet moves across the void, traced by human instruments, yet untouched by human influence. It is both object and witness, participant and teacher, revealing the subtle interplay of matter, energy, and time. In this moment, the human question crystallizes. We pursue these objects not merely to catalog, measure, or predict, but to understand our own place in a vast and ancient cosmos. Each observation is a meditation on existence, a reminder of the smallness of human life and the persistence of curiosity. The pursuit of knowledge, the quiet act of watching, becomes an affirmation of our instinct to seek, to wonder, and to connect with the universe beyond our immediate perception. And so the orbiters drift in silence, the comet continues its luminous journey, and Mars rotates slowly beneath them. The narrator's voice softens, leaving the listener suspended in reflection. We chase these visitors not because they need us, not because they change their path for our gaze, but because in observing them, we observe ourselves. In seeking the unknown, we confront the vastness of time, the complexity of matter, and the quiet persistence of curiosity, the very force that defines what it means to be human. For a brief moment, in the glow of Three-Eye Atlas and the silence of Mars, the universe feels intimate, expansive, and profoundly alive. And in that delicate balance, we are reminded that our questions, patient, persistent, and unending, are as much a part of the cosmos as the stars themselves. The images arrived with an understated drama. Digital transmissions from Mars orbiters flowing through networks, into labs, and onto screens. At first glance, they were familiar. A faint halo of light against the blackness of space, the subtle luminescence of Three-Eye Atlas drifting beyond Mars. But as the data was enhanced, sharpened, and carefully analyzed, a remarkable detail emerged. The glow was not static. It pulsed. From within the coma, light seemed to flicker, rhythmically, as if the comet carried a heartbeat of its own. The sensation was subtle. It was not a sudden flare or a catastrophic eruption, but a gentle, internal radiance, rising and falling with quiet precision. Color maps, intensity graphs, and processed images revealed that the luminosity was uneven, concentrated in pockets, sometimes brighter at the core, sometimes spreading across the halo in faint waves. It was as if Three-Eye Atlas were alive, not in consciousness, but in a physics that humans had never observed in a comet before. Scientists gathered to discuss the phenomenon. The instruments, CASIS, NOMAD, Omega, SPICAM, had already recorded countless photons. They had measured composition, traced subtle jets, and detected faint pulses in background noise. Yet this glow suggested something deeper, something that defied immediate explanation. Was it the sublimation of ice interacting with sunlight in an unusual way? Could magnetic excitation in the comet's dusty core produce faint luminescence? Or was this an entirely unknown process, one that had never been captured in human observation? The room was quiet. Words were measured. Graphs, charts, and enhanced imagery flickered across screens, showing subtle undulations of brightness. The glow was delicate yet persistent, almost hypnotic, a rhythm embedded in the comet's very existence. It was not threatening, not catastrophic, but quietly disorienting. Observers felt the subtle shift in understanding. Three-Eye Atlas was not behaving like any comet known to science, and every new image emphasized the anomaly. The effect was almost poetic. Sunlight striking the comet's icy surface, interacting with dust grains and trace molecules, produced a glow that seemed to rise from the inside. Jets of vapor, faint and ethereal, reflected light unevenly, creating pockets of luminance that shifted as the comet rotated. The enhanced images captured these subtle dynamics, revealing the comet as a complex, active system rather than a simple frozen rock adrift in space. Discussion shifted toward hypotheses. One possibility: the comet's nucleus, composed of exotic ices and dust, might host processes amplified by interstellar formation conditions. Perhaps interactions between embedded charged particles and solar radiation produced the observed pulsation. Another idea considered magnetic fields induced in the nucleus or coma, creating patterns of excitation that emitted faint light. Yet each explanation felt partial. The images suggested complexity beyond any straightforward model. Visualizations of the glow became almost cinematic. A three-dimensional model of the comet shows the core faintly illuminated, waves of brightness rippling through the coma, and jets releasing icy particles that glint in sunlight. Each frame emphasizes the dynamic nature of the object. It is not inert. It is a system in motion, responding to light, distance, and internal structure, creating a display that is both scientific and deeply aesthetic. The emotional tone of observation shifts subtly. There is no panic, no alarm, only a quiet disorientation, a realization that the universe can produce phenomena that do not fit neatly into expectation. 3i Atlas continues its silent drift, indifferent to our scrutiny, yet its glow demands attention. It is as if the comet itself insists on being noticed, on being measured, without revealing the mechanisms behind its faint pulsing light. Scientists debate. The glow might be natural, a consequence of extreme conditions preserved from interstellar formation. Or it might indicate a process not yet understood, a subtle interaction between matter and energy that has never before been seen in our solar system. Every calculation, simulation, and spectral analysis is revisited, scrutinized, and compared with models from familiar cometary physics. Yet none capture the complete picture. The visual effect on audiences, even imagined, is profound. Picture a faint greenish light rising and falling within the halo of a distant comet, drifting past the red surface of Mars, casting ephemeral glimmers across space. The pulsing glow is gentle yet persistent, like breathing across a billion-year-old artifact. It is quiet, meditative, and slightly unsettling, a reminder that even in what seems familiar, the cosmos can surprise. This moment underscores the duality of science and wonder. Observation provides data, measurement, and understanding, yet enhanced images reveal beauty, rhythm, and mystery that numbers alone cannot convey. The glow of 3i Atlas exists simultaneously as an object of study and an aesthetic experience, bridging rational analysis with human perception. It challenges both our knowledge and our imagination. The narrator's voice softens. It was not fire, nor electricity, nor any phenomenon we had fully catalogued. It was light from within, faint and persistent, pulsing as the comet drifted through the void. And in that glow we saw the universe reminding us of its subtle, quiet wonders, phenomena that do not conform, that persist quietly, and that demand observation without immediate understanding. The images linger, enhanced and detailed, subtle ridges in the nucleus, faint jets, the halo expanding into darkness. Each contributes to the sense that 3i Atlas is not merely reflecting light, but producing it in ways that suggest internal dynamics. Its presence is both familiar as a comet and entirely alien, a reminder that interstellar objects carry histories, behaviors, and processes unlike anything we have cataloged before. There is a quiet meditation in this observation. The glow is not a threat. It is a phenomenon that invites patience, attention, and reflection. Scientists document, measure, and hypothesize, yet the deeper experience is contemplative. Watching an ancient, drifting object that carries within it processes shaped by billions of years of interstellar history producing subtle pulses of light that human eyes cannot see unaided, but that our instruments faithfully record. And so the chapter closes on a note of quiet wonder. Mars rotates slowly beneath the faint pulsing glow. The orbiters drift in patient orbits and 3i Atlas continues its journey. luminous, subtle, and enigmatic. The narrator offers a reflective conclusion. In the faint pulsing of light, there is both mystery and knowledge, subtlety and awe. The comet glows not to reveal itself fully, but to remind us that even in the darkness of space, there are rhythms, pulses, and phenomena that escape expectation, waiting quietly for those patient enough to see. 3I Atlas remained a visitor from beyond, its glow impossible to fully explain, yet impossible to ignore. In its faint, pulsing luminescence, the universe whispered its quiet, disorienting poetry. Long before 3I Atlas drifted past Mars, humanity glimpsed other interstellar visitors. In 2017, ʻOumuamua appeared, a slender reddish streak moving at incredible speed, defying expectations of comet or asteroid. Its elongated shape and erratic motion challenged classification, leaving scientists and observers alike with a lingering sense of mystery. A year later, Borisov arrived, a more familiar comet, yet still foreign, carrying ice and dust from a star system light years away, obeying physical laws yet revealing material alien to our solar system. Now, with 3I Atlas, the echoes of these previous travelers resonate again. But unlike its predecessors, this visitor carries a complexity that feels almost evolutionary. It combines traits observed separately in ʻOumuamua and Borisov, the unexpected geometry, the faint pulses, the unusual chemical signatures, yet adds new features entirely its own. In this, there is a subtle suggestion that the cosmos may be repeating, refining, or exploring variations of processes in multiple systems, a quiet testament to the creativity inherent in nature. The comet drifts across space with calm persistence. Its coma glows faintly, pulsating, dynamic in its subtle motion. Jets of vapor ripple into the void, carrying molecules that have never before been cataloged in a comet from within our solar system. And yet, in certain ways, it is familiar. A comet with an icy nucleus, a halo of dust and gas, responding to sunlight and the forces of orbit, moving according to the immutable laws of physics. But its combination of features is unprecedented, a synthesis of anomaly and expectation, of the known and the unknowable. The narrator reflects softly. Every interstellar visitor has been a messenger. ʻOumuamua taught us to question assumptions. Borisov reminded us of the diversity of cometary chemistry. And now 3I Atlas arrives, carrying echoes of both, yet speaking in a language entirely its own. There is a pause, allowing the weight of observation to settle. The orbiters above Mars continue their patient drift, recording every faint photon, every subtle jet, and every irregularity in the comet's behavior. Visualizations enhance the understanding. Diagrams overlay the paths of ʻOumuamua, Borisov, and 3I Atlas, showing variations in speed, trajectory, and orientation. Graphs highlight chemical differences, molecules present in Borisov but absent in ʻOumuamua, spectral anomalies in 3I Atlas that defy direct comparison. And yet, despite these differences, a pattern emerges. Interstellar comets are not mere anomalies. They are diverse, dynamic, and informative, carrying the fingerprints of processes that unfold in distant alien systems. The parallels are subtle but profound. ʻOumuamua, with its non-gravitational acceleration and unusual shape, seemed almost engineered by natural processes, a singular enigma. Borisov, by contrast, was unmistakably a comet, icy, dusty, and following classical physics, yet its composition hinted at a stellar environment unlike our own. 3I Atlas combines these narratives. It is icy, luminous, chemically complex, and dynamic, yet exhibits pulses, jets, and glows that evoke the strangeness of ʻOumuamua's fleeting apparition. In this synthesis, it is as if the universe experiments with forms, creating variations across time and space, each visitor unique, yet related in concept. The emotional resonance of this reflection is quiet but powerful. Humans, observing these interstellar travelers, are reminded of their own limitations and the vastness of the cosmos. Each visitor challenges assumptions, each expands understanding, and each highlights the small but profound act of observation. 3I Atlas, in combining traits of both previous objects while adding unprecedented behaviors, becomes a symbol of cosmic continuity, a bridge between past discoveries and present curiosity. The narrator continues. Perhaps these objects are not exceptions, but part of a larger pattern, a natural diversity that mirrors the creativity of the universe itself. Each one is unique, yet each teaches us something about the environments that forged them, the journeys they endured, and the forces that shaped their motion and composition. The orbiters capture every nuance. The faint halo expands, the pulses shift subtly. The jets of gas and dust create ephemeral structures in the coma. These details, when compared with the data from ʻOumuamua and Borisov, reveal both divergence and resonance. It is a reminder that interstellar visitors are not merely curiosities. They are lessons in physics, chemistry, and the narrative of cosmic evolution. Each carries a story older than Earth, yet immediately relevant to human understanding. The comparison also underscores the unpredictability inherent in interstellar objects. ʻOumuamua moved so quickly that instruments could only capture fleeting glimpses. Borisov lingered longer, providing more detailed study, yet still left gaps in understanding. 3I Atlas, by contrast, allows for continuous observation, yet introduces surprises at every turn, from its unusual spectral signatures to its faint, pulsing glow, to the rhythmic patterns hidden in noise. Each characteristic challenges classification, reminding us that nature is creative, unconstrained, and often beyond the neat categories humans devise. Philosophically, the parallels invoke reflection. There is humility in recognizing that the universe contains processes and objects far beyond prior experience. ʻOumuamua reminded humans to question certainty. Borisov reminded us of diversity. 3I Atlas, in synthesizing these lessons, demonstrates that cosmic phenomena are layered, cumulative, and unpredictable. Observation is not just data collection, it is a dialogue with the universe, a way of listening, interpreting, and integrating revelations that unfold over time, distance, and scale. Imagery reinforces the quiet wonder. The red surface of Mars rotates beneath the faintly glowing comet. The orbiters drift, instruments tracking every subtle pulse, capturing spectra, photons, and imagery. In the background, stars stretch infinitely, reminders of the interstellar distance traveled by the comet. Each frame emphasizes the smallness of human observation, contrasted with the vast scale of cosmic journeys. The narrator reflects, in every interstellar visitor, we see variation and repetition, strangeness and familiarity. ʻOumuamua, Borisov, 3I Atlas, each one challenges expectation, yet each one is a part of a larger story written across the galaxy. We are observers, tracing faint histories, connecting the past of distant systems with the present of our own curiosity. Finally, the tone softens, meditative and calm. 3I Atlas continues its luminous drift, indifferent yet revealing. Mars remains a silent witness, orbiters steady and patient. Humans across millions of kilometers continue to watch, analyze, and reflect, their questions expanding alongside the object's journey. The echoes of ʻOumuamua linger in memory, Borisov in comparison, and now 3I Atlas resonates as both an echo and a new voice, a synthesis of anomaly, chemistry, and motion that challenges and inspires. The cosmos is full of echoes, patterns, and variations. Every interstellar visitor is a messenger, carrying whispers of distant stars and alien systems. And in listening, observing, and reflecting, we find that each one is not just an anomaly, but a chapter in a story that stretches across the galaxy, older than our sun, and more complex than we have yet imagined. 3I Atlas, like its predecessors, continues into the void. Yet unlike those fleeting appearances, it carries the echoes of past interstellar travelers while offering new mysteries, inviting observation, reflection, and wonder at the creativity and continuity of nature. Beyond Mars, farther out into the quiet reaches of the solar system, ESA's JUICE spacecraft drifts in steady orbit, a sentinel of human curiosity and ingenuity. Its instruments, designed to study Jupiter and its moons, are now being readied to observe something entirely different. 3I's Atlas, the interstellar comet that has already defied expectation, pulsing faintly, glowing mysteriously, and carrying a history older than the Sun. Timing is critical. JUICE will observe 3I Atlas after its closest approach to the Sun, the perihelion, when the comet AS activity is expected to shift dramatically. Solar radiation, which has been steadily interacting with its icy nucleus, may trigger changes in sublimation, jet activity, and dust emission. For scientists, this is an opportunity, a chance to glimpse the interior of the comet, to see processes that have been hidden beneath layers of ice and dust for billions of years. The narrative emphasizes human ingenuity. Instruments calibrated for distant moons, for Jovian auroras and icy crusts, are being repurposed, redirected, and optimized to capture the faint light of a visitor from another star system. Cameras, spectrometers, and imaging devices will peer into the coma, measure subtle emissions, and record data that could reveal the structure and composition of the nucleus itself. It is a careful orchestration, a quiet demonstration of humans extending their reach, pushing tools designed for one mission toward a new frontier. Visualizations show JUICE adjusting its orbit, instruments shifting in precise coordination, and data streams ready to record the faintest photons. Even in animation, the spacecraft appears contemplative, patient, poised to witness a moment of cosmic revelation. The narrator reflects on this effort. We send machines across millions of kilometers, not simply to measure, but to witness, to understand, and to connect with phenomena far beyond the immediacy of our experience. There is optimism in this observation, a calm but palpable sense of possibility. 3I Atlas, having passed closest to the Sun, may reveal new activity that was previously undetectable. Jets of gas, streams of dust, or even subtle chemical transformations could offer clues about the comet's formation, its interstellar journey, and the processes that shaped its current state. Every photon captured by JUICE represents a small but profound extension of human perception into the vastness of space. The imagery underscores the scale and quiet wonder of this enterprise. JUICE drifts silently past Jupiter's orbit. Distant suns and background stars glimmer faintly, and the comet moves across the void, its coma still glowing, its faint pulses recorded across the spectrum. The scene is one of patient anticipation, a spacecraft prepared to observe, instruments calibrated to reveal secrets, and a human endeavor reaching across millions of kilometers to glimpse the interior of a mysterious traveler. Scientists consider what might be revealed. The post-solar passage phase is critical. It may expose internal layers of ice, pockets of gas trapped for billions of years, and structures within the nucleus that have never before been observed in an interstellar comet. Data could confirm hypotheses about composition, jet dynamics, and the effects of solar radiation on a body shaped far from our Sun. Each discovery would be incremental, subtle, yet cumulatively transformative in understanding these rare visitors. The narrator reflects philosophically. In every adjustment of an instrument, in every photon captured, there is a quiet triumph. We reach across space not by proximity but by ingenuity, patience, and the persistent desire to see beyond our limitations. There is a rhythm to this observation, a cadence of preparation, anticipation, and the potential for revelation that mirrors the gentle pulse of the comet itself. The tone remains calm, meditative, and slightly anticipatory. 3I Atlas, ancient and luminous, drifts without concern for the observers below or instruments above. Yet its passage intersects with human curiosity in a fleeting but profound alignment. The orbiters and spacecraft, each an extension of observation, become intermediaries, translating the distant alien processes of the comet into data, images, and insights. Through them, humans connect with an object that has traveled light years, bridging interstellar distances with patient observation and careful planning. Visualizations linger on the spacecraft and the comet together. JUICE poised to record faint emissions, 3I Atlas drifting onward, the sun's rays just beginning to interact with its outer layers, post-perihelion. The comet's faint glow contrasts with the stark void, its subtle pulses hinting at the ongoing processes within. It is a quiet moment of anticipation. What might be revealed, and what surprises might await as humans extend their gaze through instruments and technology? The narrator emphasizes the human element once more. To prepare for observation is to participate in the cosmos. We align instruments, we calculate orbits, we wait. And in that waiting, we acknowledge both the vastness of space and the depth of our own curiosity. Each adjustment, each calculation, each photon waiting to be captured is a testament to the persistence of human exploration. The patient effort to extend perception into the unknown. The scene fades into reflection. Mars and its orbiters continue their watch. The comet continues its journey, and JUICE drifts into position. The cosmos is silent, vast, and ancient, yet human presence is felt in instruments, preparation, and anticipation. There is no rush, no urgency, only calm, steady engagement, and the quiet optimism that comes from reaching beyond limitations and witnessing phenomena that were once entirely inaccessible. Finally, the narrator offers a meditative closure. As JUICE prepares to observe, we wait with it, poised at the edge of understanding, ready to witness the subtle activity of an interstellar traveler. In the glow, in the faint jets, in the pulses yet unseen, there is knowledge, there is wonder, and there is the quiet reminder that human curiosity always seeks the distant, the ancient, and the unknown. In that anticipation, the chapter closes, a moment of calm optimism, a human endeavor reaching beyond its limits and the promise of discovery lying just beyond the comet's faint, pulsing light. While Three-Eye Atlas drifts silently through the void, human eyes look farther still, not just at the comet now passing Mars, but at the promise of future visitors. ESA's Comet Interceptor, a spacecraft designed to lie in wait, sits in quiet readiness. Scheduled for launch in 2029, it is an embodiment of patience and preparation, a sentinel awaiting an interstellar traveler yet unseen, a visitor not yet arrived, but already anticipated. The concept is simple yet profound, a spacecraft positioned at the Earth-Sun Lagrange point, where gravitational forces create a stable environment, poised to swing into action the moment a new comet is detected entering the inner solar system. Instruments are calibrated for rapid observation, imaging, spectroscopy, dust analysis, and plasma studies. It is a mission designed not for the familiar but for the unexpected, a recognition that interstellar comets are fleeting, rare, and full of surprises. The narrator reflects, Three-Eye Atlas was a flash, a brief visitor from another star, captured by instruments designed for other purposes. It reminded humanity that the universe is full of travelers, silent and swift, and that to understand them, we must be ready before they arrive. The comet's passage, though transient, has already shaped plans, influenced mission designs, and inspired a new generation of exploration. Visualizations show Comet Interceptor lying in orbit, a gleaming array of instruments prepared for a sudden journey. Its cameras and spectrometers swivel, sensors monitor background stars, and data systems remain alert, waiting for a signal. It is still, calm, and patient, yet it carries the promise of motion, of interception, of discovery the moment an interstellar visitor crosses the threshold. The connection to Three-Eye Atlas is subtle but powerful. The brief passage of this ancient, glowing comet revealed not just the mechanics of an interstellar body, but the limits and potential of human observation. Instruments on Mars and Earth captured what they could, but the fleeting nature of the encounter highlighted the need for readiness, for spacecraft designed specifically to engage these visitors on their own terms. The Comet Interceptor is the direct response, humanity preparing, learning, and anticipating the next anomaly. Music swells gently, with a sense of quiet resolve. The narrator continues, every comet, every interstellar visitor is a lesson, and Three-Eye Atlas, in its luminous pulsing path, has taught us that preparation is as crucial as discovery, that patience is as vital as curiosity, and that the next visitor may hold secrets even more profound than the last. The spacecraft itself becomes a symbol, a quiet protagonist in the unfolding story of human exploration. It is designed not for routine observation, but for the extraordinary, ready to capture light, dust, and molecules from a body that may have traveled billions of kilometers, billions of years, before encountering the inner solar system. Each instrument is a tool, each subsystem a bridge, connecting human curiosity to phenomena that exist far beyond immediate perception. The narrator reflects on the human element. For centuries, humans have chased comets with telescopes and imaginations. Now we chase them with spacecraft, with instruments floating millions of kilometers from Earth, waiting patiently for a visitor that may appear for only a few weeks. There is pride in this statement, but also humility, a recognition that the cosmos is vast, indifferent, and full of surprises, and that our efforts are small gestures of attention in an immense theater. Visualizations trace past interstellar visitors alongside the awaiting comet Interceptor. ʻOumuamua's fleeting streak, Borisov's icy trail, and 3I Atlas's glowing pulse are overlaid with the calm, poised silhouette of the spacecraft in orbit. The juxtaposition is deliberate, lessons learned, missions inspired, and preparation for the unknown converging in one quiet, patient sentinel. The narrative emphasizes continuity. Each discovery shapes the next. Each comet informs future missions, and each observation extends the reach of human knowledge. 3I Atlas, brief as its appearance was, has left an imprint, not just in data and images, but in ambition, planning, and the philosophy of exploration. The Comet Interceptor embodies this legacy, prepared to turn curiosity into immediate engagement, patience into action, and anticipation into observation. The narrator's voice softens, reflective and forward-looking. Humanity watches, waits, and prepares. We have learned that the universe does not announce its travelers in advance, and that to truly understand the cosmos, we must remain vigilant, ready to act when opportunity arrives. Comets are fleeting, but knowledge is cumulative. Each passage teaches us, each observation prepares us for the next. As the music rises subtly, images linger on the spacecraft, poised against the backdrop of stars, quiet, yet imbued with purpose. The narrative conveys calm optimism, that the fleeting brilliance of 3I Atlas is a spark lighting the path toward future exploration, and that the lessons learned will allow humanity to witness, measure, and understand visitors even more extraordinary than those before. Finally, the chapter closes with a reflective pause. 3I Atlas continues its interstellar journey. Mars and its orbiters continue to record, and the Comet Interceptor waits patiently, instruments ready, eyes open, humanity's curiosity poised to leap forward. The narrator leaves the listener with a sense of quiet resolve. The cosmos is patient, indifferent, and vast. Yet so too are we. And when the next traveler appears, we will be ready, waiting, observing, and learning from a visitor that, like 3I Atlas, may illuminate both the universe and ourselves in ways we cannot yet imagine. The faint glow of 3I Atlas gradually dims, drifting beyond the gaze of Mars orbiters, Earth telescopes, and even the most sensitive instruments poised to measure its every photon. Light diminishes, the pulsing halo fades, and the comet begins its silent retreat toward the dark interstellar void from which it came. It is a quiet departure, almost imperceptible, a reminder that the cosmos is vast and indifferent, and that the encounters we treasure are ephemeral, measured in fleeting moments of observation. Scientists monitor the diminishing signals with precision and care. Graphs flatten, spectral lines fade, and images blur into near invisibility. Yet the curiosity that guided every measurement, every photon captured, remains undimmed. The orbiters drift past Mars, tracing paths carved by gravity, silent witnesses to the comet's slow disappearance. And in that observation lies the paradox of these interstellar visitors. They are fleeting, yet transformative, brief in presence, but enduring in the questions they raise. The narrator's voice softens, almost a whisper. We only see them for a moment, and they vanish beyond reach. Each word carries weight, a meditation on the impermanence of observation and the permanence of wonder. For a few weeks, the comet's faint glow was present in our instruments, its spectral lines traced in careful graphs, its movement plotted across blackness. And now it recedes, carrying with it material energy and history that we may never fully grasp. The pacing slows, the soundscape gentle and minimal. In visualizations, the comet retreats against the backdrop of stars, light thinning into near invisibility, leaving only traces of its passage. Mars hangs below, silent and unchanging, orbiters drifting patiently, their instruments still capturing faint background signals even as the comet vanishes. There is beauty in this withdrawal, the quiet conclusion of an encounter that began with surprise, fascination, and discovery. Reflection deepens. 3. Atlas is not just a visitor. It is a messenger from the interstellar void, a fragment of history that has traveled billions of kilometers, billions of years, to pass through our observational field. Every photon recorded is a story of cosmic formation, of interstellar evolution, of processes beyond human scale. And now, as light fades, the story does not end. The questions it leaves are as enduring as the universe itself. Maybe it's not just passing through, the narrator continues, voice calm, reflective. The subtle rhythm of past observations, the glow, the pulses, the unusual chemistry, lingers in memory, in graphs, in enhanced images. Perhaps 3I Atlas carried more than molecules and dust. Perhaps it carried a reminder that humanity's gaze, however limited, is reaching ever outward. That even brief encounters with the alien can illuminate both the universe and ourselves. The imagery is deliberate, meditative. Slow pans across Mars, its red deserts bathed in fading light, orbiters circling quietly, instruments trained on a horizon now empty. The stars stretch endlessly, a reminder of the interstellar distances the comet traveled and will continue to traverse. Each frame reinforces the scale, the silence, the quiet mystery of a transient encounter leaving permanent marks in the human imagination. The voice turns almost philosophical. In the fading light, we confront impermanence, of comets, of photons, of moments in which understanding seems possible. And yet, within that impermanence is a persistence of curiosity. We watch, we measure, we record. And when the visitor fades, the questions remain. The soundscape mirrors the reflection. Soft, almost imperceptible hums, a subtle echo of past data transmissions, a gentle reminder of the instruments that observed, measured, and captured fleeting signals. There is no urgency, no alarm, only quiet contemplation, a meditation on observation, discovery, and human patience. Even as the comet vanishes into the dark, the legacy of its passage remains. Scientists continue to analyze the data, plotting jets, spectral lines, and pulse patterns. Hypotheses are refined, models recalculated, and future missions like the Comet Interceptor and JUICE draw lessons from this brief encounter. 3I Atlas may be gone, but the drive it sparked to observe, understand, and anticipate continues, like a silent pulse carried forward in human endeavor. The narrator concludes in a whisper, leaving the listener suspended in thought. Maybe it came to remind us that we are still looking. The phrase is simple, quiet, yet profound. It encapsulates the essence of interstellar observation. The encounter may be brief, the light may fade, but the act of seeking persists, patient, unwavering, and eternal. In the final visual, the comet is a mere point of fading light, nearly invisible against the tapestry of stars. Mars rotates slowly beneath, orbiters drift silently, and the universe continues, vast, ancient, and indifferent. Yet within that indifference lies human curiosity, patient, persistent, and ready to witness the next visitor, the next mystery, the next fleeting pulse of interstellar light. The chapter closes on silence, not emptiness but reflection, a quiet acknowledgement that 3I Atlas, though gone, has left questions that linger, wonder that persists, and a subtle reminder of the vast unknown waiting patiently to be observed. Mars rotates slowly beneath a sky strewn with distant stars, its rust-red surface catching the faint glimmer of the Sun, Jupiter, and distant galaxies. Shadows stretch across ancient valleys and canyons, silent witnesses to eons of change. The atmosphere, thin and fragile, filters sunlight into subtle hues of ochre and rose. The planet itself seems to exhale, vast and still, a world both alien and intimately connected to the story of the solar system. Above this surface, the faint memory of 3I Atlas lingers. Though the comet has receded into the void, the path it traced through Mars's sky remains imprinted in instruments' memories and imagination. Each photon recorded, each spectral line traced, tells a fragment of a larger narrative, one that stretches from the formation of distant stars to the present moment, bridging interstellar distance with human curiosity. The narrator's voice is calm, contemplative. Mars watches in silence. Its valleys and plains, forged by wind and dust over billions of years, now host our gaze upon something that came from beyond. Planets, comets, and the void itself are not separate. They are threads in the same story, fragments of a tapestry woven across time and space. The words float slowly, each syllable deliberate, giving weight to the meditation on cosmic continuity. Visuals drift over the planet's surface. The rust-red ridges of Valles Marineris, the smooth plains of Utopia Planitia, the distant outlines of Olympus Mons. Above, stars shimmer faintly, interstellar distances unfathomable, yet linked to this world through the brief passage of a comet. The narrative emphasizes connection, the interplay between observer and observed, between an ancient visitor and a planet shaped over billions of years. The story of 3I Atlas is now complete in the scope of observation, yet its echo persists. Data continues to be analyzed, images enhanced, and theories debated. Spectral anomalies, pulsing light, and unusual chemical compositions remain as questions, reminders that understanding is always partial, fleeting, and provisional. And yet, even in uncertainty, there is beauty. A reminder that the cosmos is active, mysterious, and perpetually creative. The narrator continues, soft and deliberate. Every planet, every comet, every fragment of dust carries a history. They are witnesses to creation, to destruction, to the vast flows of energy that shape the universe. And in their motions, their light, and their presence, they tell stories older than our sun, older than any memory we carry. Above Mars, the sky is calm. The stars twinkle through the thin atmosphere, their light traveling billions of kilometers before reaching this silent red world. The orbiters drift steadily, instruments idle or processing data, guardians of quiet knowledge. There is a meditative rhythm here, the slow rotation of the planet, the vast stillness of space, and the lingering memory of a comet that crossed it in a fleeting instant, yet left traces of wonder. The visual focus shifts to subtle phenomena, dust motes lifted in the atmosphere, glints of sunlight reflecting off rocky outcrops, faint auroras near the poles. Each element mirrors on a miniature scale the greater motions of the cosmos. Just as 3I Atlas carried its ancient particles across interstellar space, Mars carries the remnants of eons within its soil, its rocks, its very structure. The two are echoes of creation, of forces larger than themselves, part of the same universal story. The narrator's voice deepens, slightly reflective. In a universe that forgets, light remembers. Each photon, each ray, each faint glimmer is a messenger. From distant stars, from comets long departed, from the very surface of planets, light carries memory. It is the thread that connects the present to the distant past, the fleeting to the eternal. Imagery lingers on the horizon. Twilight creeps across the Martian surface, shadows lengthen, and the first faint stars of night appear. The silence is profound, yet filled with potential, for observation, for reflection, for the next encounter with the unknown. In this quiet, one senses not emptiness, but continuity, the cycles of formation, passage, and memory that define both planets and interstellar visitors. The narrator concludes gently, allowing words to settle, Mars turns beneath the stars. The sky holds memories of visitors we cannot fully comprehend, and yet their light endures. In observing, we participate. In remembering, we connect. And even as comets fade, even as light diminishes, the story continues, carried forward by our curiosity, our instruments, and the silent testimony of the universe itself. The camera pans upward, leaving the planet in view, showing the vast, infinite expanse of space. The faint glimmer of distant stars punctuates the darkness. Somewhere billions of kilometers away, 3I Atlas drifts on, ancient, luminous, and enigmatic. Its journey continues, unobserved, yet its brief intersection with Mars has left traces in instruments, minds, and imagination. Finally, the voice lowers to a near whisper, leaving the listener suspended in awe. In a universe that forgets, light remembers. The sky over Mars, rust-red and ancient, remains. The stars shine, the orbiters drift, and humanity watches, quietly, patiently, always ready to observe the next whisper of light from beyond.